Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss. I am the political dragon, speaking to you from our offices in the Bronx. Temporary situation, but we're happy to be here talking with you all across the world because we believe in the freedom of speech, the First Amendment. It is a right that is not just an American principle, but it belongs to everyone in the world. Whether your government agrees or not, whether the internet overlords like it or not, we reach out every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. to hear what you have to say, to receive your tweets, your chats, your comments, and sometimes even your phone calls. We are here for you to have this conversation, and it is, in fact, a conversation. We want to hear what you have to say. With that said, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. We cover a lot of the news, long-form political commentary. We go over the issues that the mainstream media wants to gloss over. They want you to forget. They don't want you to remember what is happening, what's been going on in Iran, what is happening with hypersonic missiles, what's happening in Atlanta as Atlanta is burning, what's happening in Boston, New York City, what is happening to the United States budget, our presence internationally. There is so much of the news that the media wants to hide from your eyes, wants you to gloss over. They did not approve the message, so you're not supposed to talk about it, but we believe you should. And because we are Americans, because we have the First Amendment, we are going to do that. Whether the news media likes it or not, whether the White House or YouTube or Google like it or not, we're going to have the conversations you deserve to be able to have. And mind you, yes, I am a Republican, I am a conservative, and I am happy to hear from everyone. I don't care if you're a Democrat, if you're a libertarian, a conservative, wherever you are on the spectrum, you are welcome on this channel to tell us what you think about the issues, whether you agree or disagree with us, because I am not a progressive. This is not a progressive channel, so you aren't obligated to believe and accept everything I say just because I'm black and Hispanic. I'm sorry, that's racist. We don't do that here. With that said, let's get into some of the issues that are going on today. One of the first things I want to go over with you is a little bit of housekeeping. See, the channel has been under attack by YouTube and by Google for a while now. We are very much one of the more suppressed channels out there for actually telling you about what is in the news by providing you the sources, which are in the description. And very often we're able to show them on the screen, depending on when our computers are working properly. We show you the images of the actual news articles from credible sources around the world. That's not good enough for YouTube. That's not good enough for Google. They want to suppress the news. You're not, just because it's out there and available, if you can find it, you're not supposed to talk about it because that's not approved. That might change the way you're going to vote in an election. And so they want to fortify elections. They want to suppress the voices that might change your opinion. And they've been doing it to us hard. Last week, we told you about how they deleted a 2021 news article that we provided with sources from the WHO, the CDC, the New York Times, talking about the pandemic, in particular, the jab, experimental medication, and its side effects, because it has side effects. And no, we're not doctors, but we can read a report from doctors. We can read in English. We have English comprehension. And so when they tell us there are side effects, some of them severe, some of them not, that doesn't mean you have to take an action. I'm not a doctor, but I'm telling you what they didn't tell you, what Joe Biden didn't tell you in December of 2021, December of 2022. He didn't tell you about the side effects. That's been suppressed. You're not supposed to know that it can have an impact because it is an experimental drug, and we don't know what it does because it hasn't been tested. A process that normally takes 7 to 10 years before it can before a drug is approved by the FDA to go out to the public. This is why every time you get a jab, you have to sign a waiver saying that you can't sue anybody, that you are giving up your right knowing that it is an experimental product and it may have adverse effects to you. That is that document that you are signing every time you get a jab. You are giving away your right to protect yourself or get remuneration because it's an experiment and they don't know what's going to happen. Most people, it's perfectly fine. But most people isn't everyone, and they don't want anyone to remember that. And so they deleted our 2021 video highlighting the CDC, the WHO, the New York Times, telling you exactly that side effects do exist. And so they deleted that. And this week, they decided to hit us twice, not just with an article which comes from 2019. Let me show you if I can. And again, bear with me. I'm working with one screen here, folks, just one screen. So it's a little bit difficult for me to show you everything that we're working on, but I will do my very best. Here it is. And so this is from our email. And as you can see, this is from YouTube. This is for a video that we did in 2019. This is how hard that YouTube is trying to suppress information and to send out warning signals. They're telling us that we cannot be monetized because we talked about members of American citizens who decided to join terrorist organizations. In this case, it was ISIS and Al-Qaeda, but more recently, we've seen that with Hamas in Cornell University, where a student declared himself a member of Hamas, a terrorist organization, so that he could persecute people because of their religious beliefs. This is what Cornell University is teaching students, at least some of them. And we got punished. We were told, oh, you are going to lose monetization because you dared to ask the question that if Americans decide to join terrorist organizations like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, and today, now Hamas, should we accept that? What should be the response in America? What is happening that we are seeing terrorists, Americans being converted into terrorism like we see at Harvard University, like we see at Columbia University, Cooper Union, and of course, like I said, Cornell and Binghamton University. This is an article from 2019. We weren't monetized by YouTube in 2019. We're not monetized today. YouTube suppresses our channel. They don't let people know that we're live. And so they suppressed that. And they're threatening us, you won't be monetized. We weren't monetized anyway. It wasn't, but the point isn't that we won't get money from this. We lose money every year. No, the warning is that they're going to punish us in the future. We've been talking about things that they don't want you, the public, to think about. They don't want you to realize that what's happening in our colleges right now isn't new. This is something that's been happening for years, going back into 2018, 2016, Binghamton University, where they were teaching literally the incoming students, the freshman students in Binghamton University, 2016, were giving classes to teach them about how being white was a problem, that you were evil. Yeah, remember that? I do. I did a video on it. It was 2016 anti-white. There was a class on that at Binghamton University. Are you surprised that we now see so many students at all of the colleges that are attacking other individuals because of their faith, because of their ethnicity, because of their politics? We're seeing it consistently, and YouTube doesn't want us to talk about it. They want you to be suppressed. But that wasn't the only thing they did this week. Not only did they attack us for our 2019 article, we had a live stream on Friday. Every Friday, we do a live stream with the Liberty First Foundation. Frank Johnson, Mike Marshall, great individuals. We talk about the Constitution. We talk about what's happening in our government and whether or not it's legal, constitutional, what's the ramifications to you, American citizens, and the rest of the world. We talk about these issues. Some people love to hear this, and it's fantastic. And this Friday at 9 p.m., what did we have happen? It was a simulcast. I was live on the Liberty First Foundation, on their channel and this channel as well. And YouTube decided to send us a message saying that my channel, No Soundbites Allowed, was being suppressed, that there was the inability to provide the live simulcast. Mind you, I was live without any problems, without any issues on the Liberty First Foundation. That stream was going through. I was using their stream to simulcast to No Soundbites Allowed. But the No Soundbites Allowed channel had a problem. YouTube interrupted the live stream only on No Soundbites Allowed. There was no problem with the transmission. There was no problem with the live stream. Everyone got to hear everything we were saying on the Liberty First Foundation channel, but not No Soundbites Allowed. These are the warning shots that they are putting out there in social media and the mainstream media. It is part of the fortification of the 2024 election. That unapproved messages, anyone who is saying something that might cause you to think about who you are voting for, that cause you to think you might not want to vote for whomever the news media wants to support, which in other words means Democrats, then that person's going to be persecuted and punished. And that's what's happening to this channel, which is why it is so important to have your support, to like, share, and subscribe. That's all we ask for. That's all we ask every week. Like, share, subscribe. That's it. Whether you agree with us 100% or not, that's okay. Just that you allow us to share in the First Amendment, to have free speech, to ask questions of our politicians, of our elected officials, of each other, and then to have a conversation. And you can determine whatever you want from that. That's all we ask for. Hello, Dow. Thank you for being the first one to comment today. And Dow says, and hopefully come up with solutions at the round table. Well, that is one of the things we hope to do. You can't get a solution if you don't have a conversation, if you don't have uncomfortable conversations that point out when something isn't working, like the immigration policy, open borders. It doesn't work. It has never worked. And we are seeing the result of it, as we have often been told by Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, from the far left. Oh, open borders, that is a good thing. Illegal immigration is a good thing. It actually it helps the United States economy. If it's so damn good, why is New York City, Boston, Chicago, state of California, why are they falling apart? Oh, why are they losing billions, not millions, billions of dollars? And we'll go into that in a little bit later in the program, how this is going to negatively impact you. It's not just that they're taking away your tax money. It's not that they're charging you more and more in taxes and fees for everything that you do. The reason why, if I go out and I get a donut in New York City, it's going to cost me $5. That same donut costs me $1 anywhere else in the country. Why? Because because of the illegal immigration, because it doesn't help the economy. It hurts the economy. It hurts you. And it's going to hurt your children in terms of education. It's going to hurt you in terms of crime. It's going to hurt a lot. We'll get into that in just a minute. But we want to talk, first of all, I just want you to understand that the suppression is real. The fortification, as they like to call it, according to Newsweek, when they came out and reported about the shadow cabal that fortified the 2020 election. They did the same thing in 2022. They're doing it in 2024. We know the White House right now is actively working with the news media and the social media companies to coordinate what are approved messages, what is misinformation and disinformation, which, oddly enough, just winds up being anything that criticizes the Biden-Harris administration, progressives, and their ideology. Shocking, isn't that? In other countries, that would be called propaganda. But in the United States, it's called fortifying an election. I will prove everything I have been saying. And again, you can go to Liberty First Foundation, look at the coverage from Friday Night Roundtable, look at mine. I actually published the very statement from YouTube saying, oh yeah, on No Soundbites Allowed, we are interrupting your channel, the live stream, even though I was live on another channel. This is how they use the system to punish you, to hold you back. Not just to take away monetization and make us poor. No, they've been doing that for over a decade. That's not enough. No, they want to silence any voice that talks about the things you're not supposed to remember, the things you're not supposed to talk about. Let me give you an example of what we're talking about here. And let's look at the international news, which I think is very important. Now, everyone may recall that this week, Joe Biden he was having conversations with the Chinese Communist Party's chairman, Xi Jinping. And that conversation, this is why San Francisco went through a sudden clean phase. They did a rinse cycle for San Francisco. Mind you, they don't do this for the average American citizen. They didn't clean up San Francisco because the people of San Francisco were tired of walking through human feces on their streets. It wasn't a matter of humanitarian aid, a matter of public health. They didn't clean the human feces because it's just the right thing to do, and you pay your taxes to have clean streets and roads. No. They did it because the Chinese Communist Party came to San Francisco, came to California. That's why they cleaned it up. That's the only reason why they cleaned it up. And if you go there now, guess what? The human feces is back. Why? The Chinese are gone. All of the dignitaries around the world, Joe Biden, they all left. So it's back to junkies defecating on the streets again in San Francisco. I hope you love paying your taxes in California. That's what you're paying taxes for someone to defecate on your streets and for the government to leave it there until someone important shows up, because you living your life, being a citizen, being a resident of San Francisco, that's not important enough. You're only there to vote them in power and shut up and keep your head down and keep giving them your money. That's a fact. These are facts, folks. It's not a question. We know for a fact they only cleaned up just so that Xi Jinping could have a conversation with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden said he did a great job. Remember, he was there. He was elected because of his influence, his time as vice president, knowing all the world leaders. And that would allow him to have negotiations and keep America further and further away from World War III. What has that resulted in? 30,000 Americans abandoned around the world. We're talking about Afghanistan, 5,000 individuals, of which 200 are being tortured by ISIS and Al-Qaeda right now. That comes from the State Department in 2023. 200 Americans being tortured by ISIS and Al-Qaeda right now. 5,000 Americans abandoned. That's in Afghanistan alone. 10,000 in the Ukraine. Remember when Joe Biden told NBC News, Lester Holt, in February of 2022, that he would not save a single American, that they had to figure their own way out of a war zone because he wouldn't help any of them. He could have. It would have taken 2.5 hours to fly a plane from Ramstein Air Base in Germany to the Ukraine to pick up Americans and get them out of the war zone. He didn't care. And he told you on national news, NBC reported it. Oh, you didn't remember that. You're not supposed to remember that. That's 10,000 Americans. This year, April 2023, 15,000 Americans were abandoned in the Sudan, a place that is known for genocide year after year. Remember under the Obama administration how there was a complete genocide of the people of Darfur? Well, that's in the Sudan, and it's happening again, in part because the members of ISIS and Al-Qaeda that were released from Afghanistan went to Africa, and they have been starting civil wars throughout Africa everywhere they have reached, and that includes the Sudan. And 15,000 Americans were left behind as the Biden administration forgot all about them and said, oh, we don't even know where that place is. Sudan? Where's the Sudan? There's no Americans there. We took our embassy, we took our troops, and we left. And left behind 15,000 Americans that remain there to this day, and the mainstream news media wants you to forget about it because you might change the way you vote in an election. Again, this is a fact. It's not a question. It's not an opinion. It's not my truth. It is the empirical fact. Cannot be denied. And of course, we have what's happening now with Israel and Hamas, with over 33 Americans having been killed, with an unknown number of Americans being held hostage by Hamas right now as human shields, being tortured, being raped as we speak. And so Joe Biden is having a conversation with Xi Jinping because he's good at international policy, as you can tell from those wonderful examples of how great America is doing with international policy. You're not supposed to remember it. You're just supposed to remember that Joe Biden is great at international policy. He helps to make the world more peaceful. I'm sure all of that sounds very peaceful to you. But he talked to Xi Jinping, who is gearing up to have a war. Xi Jinping has said under the Biden administration, immediately after Biden took power in January of 2021, the Chinese government said they are going to forcefully go into Taiwan, starting a war, a regional war in Southeast Asia. He's made it very clear. He has never denied it. He has never retracted that. They are preparing to go into Taiwan by force. And we know that this is terrifying Japan. That's why they're building their first army since 1945. We know it's terrifying South Korea, which is why they are looking to become the fourth largest weapons manufacturer in the world, and they're looking to build nuclear weapons because no one's trusting Joe Biden to come help them. So Joe Biden had this conversation with Xi Jinping, and supposedly they made friends. Xi Jinping suddenly, out the blue, after years of saying that Joe Biden has no business even talking to China about human rights, about disappearing the Uyghurs, about planning a war in Southeast Asia. No, Joe Biden had a conversation in San Francisco that was made nice and clean, and they had a great conversation. And what was the result of the conversation? Joe Biden turned around and said, oh, and by the way, Xi Jinping is a dictator. Look, I'm not going to tell you that Joe Biden was wrong for calling Xi Jinping a dictator. He is. I have no disagreement with that. He is a Chinese communist dictator. They run their country through authoritarian rule and force. People disappear on a regular basis. Look at the leaders of Hong Kong, that 47 individuals disappeared, never to be seen again. Look at the Uyghurs, a religious or group of people, disappeared. China disappears people on a regular basis if they don't like what they say. That's authoritarian. That's a dictatorship. That's violent. I'm not disagreeing with Joe Biden in his summary of who Xi Jinping is. But, you know, if you just had diplomatic relations, you're having negotiations with your enemy, and you're trying to tell the world that this has made things more peaceful, that China has decided to be more peaceful, they're less likely to go into Taiwan. Not that they won't, but they're less likely to do it anytime near term. They're less likely to start a Southeast Asia war. And the first thing you say immediately after walking out of that meeting is, oh yeah, and he's a dictator. He's evil. That doesn't sound like that's smart politics to me. Pissing off the guy you just had a negotiation with isn't smart. That's how you start wars. I mean, am I wrong on that, folks? And by the way, Dow has a few things to say here, and anyone can comment whether you agree or disagree. It's fine. Dow says, which is why it's also important to diversify across multiple platforms. Talking about the way that we are being suppressed on YouTube, but that's also why we're on Rumble, on Odyssey, on BitChute. We post on Minds, on Getter, on Truth Social. We're on most of the platforms out there. Granted, audience mitigation is slow, but it does happen. Yes, people are going to different platforms because they are noticing more and more that the content that you enjoy is being hidden by YouTube, that they are destroying everyone. I don't care if you're listening to someone talking about reviews of movies or video games. They're talking about music or songs. You're seeing more and more of everything that you enjoy. If it doesn't match the ideology, the political leanings of Google, of the tech giants, of the progressive Democrats, if it doesn't match up to them 100%, it's been canceled, and you find it harder and harder to find content, to even know that content is being made. It's kind of scary. But that's why I do like Rumble. And I do want, when I can afford it, we do have on our channel, we do simulcast on Rumble whenever we have the money. And we do take phone calls in whenever we have the money to have the phones so that you can call in live. But at the moment, we don't have the money. So that's why I'm not simulcasting on Rumble right now. It's the reason why you're not able to call in at this moment. We just don't have the money. Again, I'm not monetized, and YouTube is making sure we're not going to be monetized. So we rely on your donations, folks, whether it's joining our PayPal for PayPal with whatever you would like to donate, or I know money's tight, $1.50 at our Patreon. Hey, it's more. We provide more content and more interesting content than you'll get off of Disney, Netflix, and Hulu combined. That being said, my microphone is dropping levels. It could be because the microphone is actually very close to me, and so when I lean forward, the microphone may not be directly in front of me. But let me know if this is better. I just moved the microphone, so that might be a little better for everyone. So we know that San Francisco, California, is a mess. Remember, Gavin Newsom made a point of going to China. Why? Who knows? Because Gavin Newsom is a governor of California. He can't make international policy. He wasted the money of the public, of the people of California, for a trip to visit China. He didn't make any deals. He can't. That's why Xi Jinping came to San Francisco to talk to Joe Biden, because Gavin Newsom is useless. He's meaningless. He's a governor. He can't do anything. It's kind of like when Mayor Eric Adams of New York City went to South America and he was in Colombia, and they were saying, go back to New Jersey, because he's useless. He's meaningless, because a mayor doesn't make policy, not for a state, not for the United States country. He has no impact whatsoever. What he really did was went on a tour, had a nice little vacation of South America, paid for by the taxpayers, just like Gavin Newsom had a vacation in China, paid for by the taxpayers, and that resulted in absolutely zero for you. Zero benefit for anyone in America, unless you happen to be one of their donors, and that's one of the reasons why we see Eric Adams is now being investigated as we speak for illegally having donations from foreign countries. Hey, we see this all the time. That's not why he's being investigated, though. It's not because of the corruption of the donations that Eric Adams has received, much like the donations we have seen from Gretchen Whitmer, that we've seen to Gavin Newsom, to Hillary Clinton, and to Joe Biden. Remember all of their illegal donations that they have received? This isn't new. It's that Eric Adams broke the cardinal rule. He didn't stay on the plantation. He talked about illegal immigration in New York and how it's not a benefit, how it is hurting New York. He dared to speak up, and therefore the FBI is investigating him as we speak. But we'll go on. I'm glad the sound is better. Thank you for letting me know, Dow. And again, folks, you can jump in at any time. Every time you see me turn like this, that means I'm reading the comments that you have left. If I'm looking directly at the camera, I can't see the comments. But do leave your comments, folks. We're happy to hear what you have to say about any of these topics, whether you agree or disagree. Perfectly fine. So, Joe Biden completely failed. In fact, it was a meme going around all the internet. You may have seen it on Twitter, where we saw that Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State for the United States, who set up the meeting with Xi Jinping, China and the United States was trying to get some kind of headway to calm things down in Southeast Asia, to reassure our allies in Japan and North Korea and the Philippines and Australia, to let them know that the United States has their back and that we're trying to calm things down to get China to stop with their militarization. And he winced as Joe Biden threw all of that work out the window and said, yeah, Xi Jinping is a dictator. I'm not saying he's wrong. That wasn't the time to say it. That just wasn't the smart thing to do. That's not called diplomacy. Not unless you want to be in a war. Not unless you want to see fighting around the world. Pissing off your enemy isn't a way to get your enemy to stop acting violently. And Antony Blinken knew it, and that's why we saw the video going around the world. But let's go on, because for those who are not familiar, we often talk about some of the international news first before we get to the domestic news here in the United States. But they're interrelated. What's happening internationally is affecting you. And if you think it's not a big deal whether or not we deal with China, remember, China makes about 40% of all the things that you buy. Whether you're at a Walmart or any other store, they're making all the goods that we consume here in the United States. China is threatening our allies. We have an agreement since 1960 with Japan that we would always, under any and all conditions, protect Japan if they are in a war. Always. We have an agreement with South Korea to protect them. We have agreements that are being negotiated as we speak to go back into the Philippines to help protect them. We have agreements with Australia. We're building them nuclear submarines so that they can protect themselves against China. If you think that the conversation with the United States and China doesn't affect the world and that affects us, it hits us in every single direction. Not just the military, but economic as well. So this was a big deal. But one of the things that really is also a big deal, and nobody wants to talk about this, you're not hearing about this anywhere in the world. Let me show you what I'm talking about before I get to the comment. I do see the comment there. And here it is. What you're not hearing about. North Korea, for the 19th year in a row. Some of the people who are watching this channel for the first time, you may not even be 19. We have an audience that goes all the way down to 15 years of age. You may not have noticed this. This is international news. 19 years in a row, North Korea is again in violation of human rights. Where is the protest? Where are the protesters at Harvard? Where's the protesters at Cornell University, Cooper Union, Binghamton University? Where are those protests from the Democrats and the progressives saying this is unacceptable? That not only is it bad that it's happening, but that it has happened for nearly 2 decades in a row. That this cannot be allowed to happen. Remember, they're the ones who are screaming about the human rights of Hamas, the terrorist organization. They're running up and down streets. They're shutting down California, D.C. They're attacking Democrats as we speak because, we have to protect the human rights of Hamas, the terrorist organization in Gaza. Why don't they care about this? They don't care about the human rights of Americans abandoned in the Sudan as there is a genocide happening in the Sudan. They don't care about that. You don't hear any of them talking about that news. You don't hear them talking about the women of Iran who are being stoned to death for daring to show their hair, or schoolgirls being poisoned in Iran for learning how to read and write. You don't hear them protesting that. You don't see them shutting down Washington, D.C., demanding that Bernie Sanders make a statement about any of that. No, they care about Hamas, a terrorist organization that is trying to commit global genocide and would love to kill every single American, including the progressives. Because Hamas believes in burning the LGB alive, because they believe in stoning women for learning to read. That's what Hamas believes in. That's what Iran believes in. That is what they have written down and publicly stated. that they want to kill America as well as Israel. And this is what the progressives are standing by and they support. But they are absolutely silent about 19 years of human rights abuses in North Korea. Why? North Korea happens to be progressive. They happen to be socialist. They don't like talking about socialists. North Korea is protected by China. And, they like China. China's communist. They don't want to talk badly about China. So you can't talk about North Korea and their human rights violations or China and their human rights violations because Gavin Newsom, he might not be invited to take a vacation in China on your taxpayer dollar if they actually brought that to your attention. You're supposed to ignore this story. You're supposed to just let it pass you by. Oops, who noticed that? No, you're not supposed to notice that. Don't worry about that. Don't let that affect the next vote that you have, whether it's for governor of California or the Senate of California with Adam Schiff, who lied to your face. It doesn't matter about how many human feces are on the street. Remember, vote Democrat, vote progressive, because it doesn't matter. Let me go back, because Dow's having a storm. User has been banned. Thank you for joining us today. I'm glad to see you here too. User has been banned says, these people go to New York and complain they can't stay at five-star hotels in Manhattan. Well, to be fair, the illegal immigration that's affecting New York, Boston, Chicago, and many other cities across the United States, that's mostly 3- and 4-star hotels, not 5-star. Because the 5 stars, the places that Obama and Kirsten Gillibrand and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when they want to stay in a hotel, they go to the 5 stars. They don't want to be disturbed. No, it's the regular people. Whether you're there for business or just for a vacation, for whatever reason, you want to go to a nice hotel. You don't want to be in the Motel 6 that is filled with a bunch of bed bugs. You want to be somewhere where they have supposedly nicer, humanitarian, clean beds, and you're going to pay extra. And you want to be in downtown Manhattan, so you're going to be in a 3- or 4-star hotel. Fantastic. Except that's the general public. That's just working class people, which means you get bounced so that illegal aliens can be in that hotel instead. And by the way, if you doubt me, this is why New York City is spending $14 billion. Let me say that again. $14 billion on illegal aliens is because they are living in 3- and 4-star hotels, not 5-star. I do want to correct you, users, man. Not 5-star hotels, 3- and 4-star hotels, and kicking you, the average working American who is paying for this with your taxes, you get kicked out. It's kind of upsetting. Dow says the Empire State has a ton of bad policy coming out that is going to exacerbate the illegal border invader problem so much for the whole state. Governor Hochul is looking to sign off on legislation that will seal all but the most heinous criminal records after 5 to 8 years. Yes, they are trying to make sure that you don't know how bad this is, that they want to protect the criminals, not you. They want to make sure that the criminals have access to guns, but you don't. You don't even have the right to passively, let me be very clear, to passively defend yourself by wearing a bulletproof vest for you and your family. You can't wear a bulletproof vest, which is passive self-defense. That is a crime in New York State. Who is that hurting? How is that hurting criminals? That you can't protect yourself or your family in New York State because what? Because that's going to stop the local mugger down the street? No, it's not stopping them. It's not stopping violent crime in New York. Remember, you were promised New York Safe Act. You're going to be safe. No, you're not. You were promised red flag laws. That will make you safe. No, you're not. Oh, we're going to try and stop everyone from being able to conceal carry. You're not safe. Oh, and it's illegal for you to wear passive self-defense, a bulletproof vest. You can't even protect yourself that way because that's a crime. But don't worry, they have it all under control. Kathy Hochul knows what's best for you to protect you. And what's going to protect you the best? They're going to defund the police, have less police officers, and they're going to give you more penalties for following the law. You have less chances, less ability to be able to have a firearm, to be trained in a firearm, to passively defend yourself. That's how they protect you, which is why crime is going up. But let me continue on this path here. We're talking about what's happening with China, what's happening with Iran, and as I just mentioned and I just showed you, what's happening overseas. North Korea continuing to have the same kind of human rights violations that they're livid about in Gaza, they don't care about anywhere else in the world. Sudan, North Korea, they don't care. They don't care if anyone else is being oppressed. They want to support Hamas. They want to support genocide coming out of Iran. And you should be asking yourself why. And by the way, I wish that was the most of the problems that we have coming out of what's happening in Iran. But it's not. There are bigger problems that are continuing to go on. Let me show you here. Come on, you silly. Hang on one second. There we go. So this is coming from the Times of India. If you notice, this channel, we look at news from around the world, which is why you probably didn't know that right now, Iran has a hypersonic missile. Oh, you didn't know that? See, forget about the fact that Iran right now is demanding that all of the Middle East attack Israel because Israelis exist. They want to genocide the Israelis for merely existing. It has nothing to do with Palestinians. It has nothing to do with the nation of Palestine that doesn't exist. It has nothing to do with Hamas or Hezbollah. No, it's Iran doesn't like that the Israelis exist. And they want Jordan, they want Egypt, they want Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, they want Yemen, they want everyone to attack and kill the Jews and then to go on and kill the United States. And by the way, if they can get through Europe and kill all of them, they do that too. So that's what he's talking about, and you may have seen that news, but the thing that you don't see, which is at the bottom of this article right here in this section, is when they're talking about, and by the way, Iran has hypersonic missiles. Oh, you didn't see that? That isn't the main headline. I know everyone in all the major news media around the world, they want to focus on, well, Iran wants to kill Israel. We already knew that. That's not new information. Everyone's known that since 1980. I know that because I've been alive longer than and well before 1980. I've seen them say this for 4 or 5 decades now in a row. They have been saying they want to kill everyone in Israel. They want to kill every American. Doesn't matter what deal they make. Even when they made the deal with Obama for the Iran nuclear deal, that same day that Obama was running around saying, I did such a great job, I made peace with Iran, that same day, Ayatollah Khamenei was on Iranian and international news media saying, death to America. They want to kill you. There is no way around it. I don't care how many times you sing Kumbaya, they want you dead. And they now have hypersonic missiles. Now, for those who have not been following this and may not be aware of it, let me be clear. Hypersonic missiles are a problem. They come from China. China developed this technology. They gave it to North Korea, and either China or North Korea have now given hypersonic missiles to Iran. By the way, they also gave it to Russia, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But so China, which created hypersonic missiles, created the technology, and gave the technology to North Korea last year, and part of the 100 missiles, rockets, and ICBMs fired by North Korea last year alone, 27 times this year alone, their hypersonic missiles that they've been firing. And now we know Iran has them too. The mainstream media doesn't want to tell you this. Do you know why? Because we can't shoot down hypersonic missiles. Because all of the missile defense in the United States can't stop hypersonic missiles. That this is a technology that threatens every single American on U.S. soil. That all the rockets, all the missiles, whether they have nuclear weapons on them or conventional, are in danger everywhere in America. Those rockets, those ICBMs, hypersonic missiles can reach anywhere and kill you, and we can't shoot them down. We don't know how to do it. They move too fast. That is a fact. It is news that has been reported for the last 2-3 years now, especially since the Biden administration has come into office. Since January of 2021, we have been hearing more and more about the Chinese-made hypersonic missiles and that technology being shared with North Korea, and that they have been mass producing hypersonic missiles. And now we know that Iran has them. And Iran absolutely wants everyone in America dead. They call us the Great Satan, and they call Israel the Little Satan, and they don't like anyone in Europe either. This is the reality of what we are seeing, folks. This is the reality. And again, the news media is, we have to go to the Times of India. The United States does not want to mention, and even in the Times of India, they are burying the story. The lead is, oh, Iran wants to kill Israel. We knew that. That's not new. They have never changed their opinion about that. They bury it because no one's paying attention to that article, because we already know Iran wants to kill Israel. We knew that. That's not new. No one's paying attention. And in that story, at the very end of the story, they bury in and drop the news. Oh, by the way, Iran has hypersonic missiles now. Something that America, that Europe, that the United Kingdom cannot shoot down. NATO can't protect themselves from these missiles. And now, one of the most radical, the greatest supporter of terror in the world is Iran. And they have hypersonic missiles given to them either by China or North Korea. How's Joe Biden doing with that international policy? Remember, Joe Biden, he's there to provide international policy. He's done such a great job that Iran has hypersonic missiles. Are you concerned yet? And by the way, if you want to say, but that's because of the Iran nuclear deal, you're a liar or you're misinformed. Because under the Obama administration, according to then Secretary John Kerry, as we were told in 2016, the Iran nuclear deal did not stop Iran from making missiles or ICBMs. They were excluded. So they have been working on hypersonic missiles possibly since the Obama administration. And it's perfectly okay. That's legal for them. That was okay because Obama didn't care if they built missiles that could strike you in LA and can't be shot down. I guess he didn't think they'd be able to make them. And he's right. Iran couldn't make them. China could. And China gave the technology to North Korea, and either North Korea and or China gave the technology to Iran. Do you feel safe? Because they're telling you you're safe. They're telling you that don't worry. Look, Joe Biden just talked to Xi Jinping, the Chinese communists. Everything's okay. By the way, on the very next day, Iran has hypersonic missiles from the very same Chinese communists that Joe Biden's telling you are dictators, and it's okay because they're not going to attack you. No, China may not attack. Iran will. Do you see why I'm upset, folks? Can you see why this upsets me so? And you're not hearing this. This isn't frontline news on CNN. This isn't coming to you from MSNBC. It's not coming to you from ABC or the New York Times. They don't want to talk about this because they want to fortify the 2024 election. They want you focused on Joe Biden had a conversation with Xi Jinping and San Francisco's clean. Don't believe those horrible MAGA Republicans. Don't believe anyone on the internet that shows you every other day of the week for years now the streets are filled with feces. Don't pay attention to the human rights violations that have been going on for years in China. Don't pay attention to the fact that China and or North Korea are giving hypersonic missile technology to the largest sponsor of global terror in the world, Iran, who have been promising for decades, longer than most people who are on the internet have been alive, longer than the internet has existed. Iran has been saying they're going to kill everyone in America, everyone in Israel, and everyone in Europe. And now they have hypersonic missiles we can't shoot down to be able to do it. I'm not trying to fearmonger you. I'm trying to inform you. I'm trying to provide you the information that the mainstream news media is telling you. Don't pay attention. Don't talk about it. Don't think about it. Don't ask your politicians what we are going to do about this. Joe Biden wants to run around saying, I've got this. I'm a great politician. Don't mind me falling down on a flat stage. We've got the progressives out there saying, don't worry, more socialism is good. How are you protecting us from hypersonic missiles that we cannot shoot down? As we are having fewer and fewer people volunteer to be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. We missed all of our recruitment targets, minimum recruitment targets that allow us to be safe and free in the world. And remember, if the United States isn't the beacon of freedom in the world, there is no beacon of freedom in the world. The United Kingdom will not step up. Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, name your nation, they aren't increasing the amount of freedom they are giving anyone in the world. They've had the opportunity for hundreds of years to increase the amount of freedom they give their people. They haven't. They have stayed the same or dropped lower. The United States is the only nation in the world that gives as much freedom, as much quality of life, as much opportunity to the people of the world. We're the only ones. We are it. And if we stop doing it, no one else steps up. Everyone steps down. There becomes less freedom in the world, period. That is a fact. Because if they were going to do more, if they were going to do better, they've had hundreds of years to do it. And they don't. But you're not supposed to think about that. You're not supposed to remember or recognize that. You're just supposed to say, it's okay, because I'm voting Democrat. So that upset me a lot. That terrifies me. And I think everyone in the world should be very, very aware of this. That the politics that have been going on, whether it's in the Middle East or Southeast Asia, have completely failed. Because when the rogue nation of Iran, the greatest sponsor of terror in the world, has hypersonic missiles, that means every terrorist organization in the world potentially has access to hypersonic missiles that cannot be shot down. There is nowhere safe in the world. The threat to the people of the world has just increased. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what country you're in. I don't care what your ideology is. There is a terrorist organization that wants you dead. And if they are sponsored by Iran, as most of them are, you are now in danger. You can understand why the mainstream media doesn't want to tell you this. Because it means your politicians have failed you. Your politicians have completely failed you. General Mark Milley failed you. And Biden and Kamala Harris, they're failing you actively because we should be increasing our military and we should be funding our military to be able to take down these hypersonic missiles, which is a preeminent threat against our lives. But that would be a government that actually cared about American citizens. And if we have 30,000 Americans in 3 years that have been abandoned by the Biden-Harris administration, where's your argument to prove to me that Joe Biden cares about American citizens? I don't think he does. If there's a Democrat, if there's an elected official in America that wants to try and argue with me, wants to make the argument that Joe Biden cares, that Democrats and progressives care about the American people, and they can tell me what we are doing right now to bring home 5,000 Americans from Afghanistan, 10,000 Americans from the Ukraine, 15,000 Americans from the Sudan, and God knows how many Americans, at least 400 in Gaza, unknown numbers that are being held as prisoners and human shields right now. Please, if you can explain how I am wrong on all of that, I am happy to hear it. Let's have that debate. I will give you as much time as you need. I am not the mainstream media. You're not going to be limited to one soundbite, to a minute and 30 seconds to try and make your case. I will give you as many hours as you need to explain how you are fixing the problem. Because there is a problem, and it's getting worse, and everyone in the world knows it. Any Democrat, any elected official at any level of government, local, state, federal, you want to have that discussion, I will have that discussion live as long as you want to speak. I am not limited by time. I can do a 12-hour nonstop show. I have no problem with that. You want to get into that much detail? Let's do it. Prove me wrong, please. I would love to hear how you're making the world safer. You're making it safer for Americans and everyone else. Please convince me. Because the evidence, as reported internationally, isn't saying that. And this is why Democrats don't like coming onto this program. They hate coming onto this program, folks. And that's because I actually asked them to do their job. And they don't like that. They want you to feel like they did something. They want you to feel like you're safe, not to actually be safe. Because being safe, that takes work. That takes effort. You might fail. You have to admit your mistakes, and you have to admit when you've gotten something wrong. They don't want to do that. They just want to always be right. They want you to feel like you're safe because that's easy. That's a lie. That's smoke and mirrors. It's easy to say, oh, well, we just need the Iran nuclear deal, and then we'll be safe. Iran won't fire missiles at us. So you mean the 4 decades of them promising to kill you, that just goes away because we made a deal. Even though the last time we made that same deal, they were on the same day promising to kill us, that they were using the money that day to fund global terror to kill Americans and Israelis. You think I'm kidding? January 16th, 2016, CNBC. Then Secretary John Kerry was live and said, and answered the question from CNBC and said, the United States has indirectly funded global terror, that the money that we, from the Iran nuclear deal, was being used, at least part of it, to fund global terror. Don't have to believe me. Look it up. I just gave you the day, the year, the month, the news organization, who said it, what he said. You don't have to believe me. Look it up for yourself. You're supposed to forget. You're not supposed to know that exists. I remember it very clearly. This is why they lie to you. This is how they lie to you, how they distract you. But that's not approved. Mike, that's not an approved message. We're talking about 2023 and 2024. We're talking about now. Right. And what has happened is we spent $6 billion. The United States spent $6 billion to get 5 Americans released from Iran that were illegally held prisoner in Iran. Iran is using that $6 billion to build hypersonic missiles. They're using that money to give $100 million a year minimum to Hamas, so Hamas can kill people in Israel, women and children. They're using the $6 billion that Joe Biden just gave Iran so that they can give rockets to Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis so that they can kill everyone that doesn't believe whatever the Ayatollah Khamenei says. Let's pay attention to the details, folks. Pay attention to the details. They're giving you the smoke and mirrors. It's all great. We got 5 prisoners back. Yes, but we also increased the global terror in the world. We got 5 prisoners back that shouldn't have been prisoners in the first place. And we bought them. And it cost us more terror in the world. Is that worth it? Biden went to Gaza. He spoke with Hamas. He got 2 Americans back home. That's fantastic news. I am happy about that. I truly am. He got 2 Americans back. It cost $105 million in humanitarian aid that goes to the government of Gaza. Who is that? Hamas, which is illegal. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Giving them humanitarian funds is giving effort and aid to a nation at war, a terrorist organization, and that is illegal by United States code. That is illegal in the United States. He can't do that, and he's doing it anyway. And by the way, what about the other 14, possibly 16 other Americans that are being held hostage that we know nothing about? Oh yeah, you forgot about that, didn't you? Mainstream media stopped talking about the fact that there are Americans who are being held hostage by Hamas, being used as human shields, that are being tortured and raped as we speak. The news media doesn't talk about that anymore. I wonder why. In all of their pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas conversations, they stopped talking about Americans are held hostage and being tortured right this second. It could be your brother, it could be your mom, it could be your kids, because Hamas doesn't care. And the news media wants you to forget they exist. I mean, let's be serious, folks. Again, any Democrat, any progressive, any elected official that thinks I am wrong, this is an open forum around the world. Any world leader can come, and any elected official in any government in the world, I will be happy to have this conversation with you if you can show me how I am wrong. Because I have the international news media, credible news that will tell you I am right. Let me see if I can show you. Here we go. Let me show you what I'm talking about here, folks. Bear with me. I want to show you this. Whoops. So this is news international. Again, this is the international news media. 2 Israeli hostages were found. A 65-year-old woman and an Israeli soldier. This is being reported by CNN. They're dead. Hamas killed them. Hamas killed the human shield. Why? Because Israel went in and was going to capture one of the tunnels that Hamas uses. And since Hamas was going to lose their tunnel and their base, they killed the hostages. That's how evil these people are. And those could be Americans. Hamas doesn't care. They are currently negotiating with the Biden-Harris administration through the nation of Qatar, which is, wouldn't you be surprised, a supporter of Hamas, a supporter of Iran. And what are they doing? They're saying, hey, how much money can we give to Hamas to get our prisoners back? That's it. They don't want to tell you, oh, but Hamas is also killing them. So we have to make the deal as fast as possible. Because as Israel is finding rockets in schools, in children's schools, grade schools. They're finding rockets and Hamas bases. As they are finding this and they are clearing out many of these Hamas cells, Hamas is killing the hostages. But that would look bad for Antony Blinken. That would look bad for the Biden-Harris administration and progressives in America to admit this. We can't tell the college kids, they can't handle the truth. They've been told, they've been indoctrinated at Cornell University, at University of Massachusetts, at Harvard, at Binghamton University. They have been conditioned and trained to accept Hamas must be the good guys. They're terrorists. They kill children. They kill civilians, but they're the good guys. This is what they've been trained. So we can't tell them, oh, by the way, they're killing the hostages too. And by the way, those hostages are Americans. They might as well be you, because Hamas doesn't care. They do not care about you, and they will kill you. They will kill their human shields when the shields don't work. When the shields aren't going to protect Hamas, they kill them. Why? Because they killed everybody else too. It is unpleasant. It is unfortunate. It is sad that we have to have these realities mentioned, but we have to mention them. You're not supposed to pay attention to this. You're supposed to be focused on the fact that, well, Biden is making a deal. He's making a deal with Hamas, and Hamas is going to release the prisoners. Really? Are you sure? We don't even know how many prisoners there are. We don't know how many Americans are being tortured at this moment. And the news media stopped asking. So we don't know if we're going to get all the prisoners back. We don't know what the deal is for. We don't know if they're alive or not, because Hamas will kill them. We don't even know if Hamas has already killed them, because the news media doesn't want to talk about it, because the Biden-Harris administration does not want to talk about it, because this is an unapproved message. This is an unapproved line of thinking. It does not help the 2024 election, at least for Democrats and progressives. Therefore, you're not supposed to think about it. You're not supposed to have a conversation. You can tell me, Mike, I think you're wrong. Fantastic. Let's have that conversation. Prove how I am wrong. Let's start with, how many Americans are being held by Hamas as human shields and being tortured and raped this moment? Please, politicians, you think I'm wrong. Progressives, you think I don't know what I'm talking about. Harvard, Columbia, Cornell University, please tell me, how many hostages? What is the number? Oh, you don't know, because you stopped asking, because we're not supposed to talk about that. Then there is a fundamental flaw in your logic. There is a fundamental flaw in the news that is being reported. Journalists are failing. I'm not a journalist. I'm a political commentator. If I can ask the question, you damn sure should be asking the question. And we know that there are members of the American mainstream news media embedded with Hamas in Gaza as we speak. They can ask this question. They can get this number. Why aren't they? Oh, because that doesn't move forward your political agenda. That's the only conclusion I come to. It's not helping your political agenda. That's why you don't want to ask that question. That's why you don't want people to talk about it. Dow says, sounds like the current state and federal administrations of the United States and Canada as well. State-sanctioned neutralization of undesired population for convenience. It's a scary thought. And I think you're talking about, in that instance, I think you're talking about Canada's health care, where they are assisted suiciding people. That's the answer to Canada's universal health care. They genocide people. So, let me see. So far, we've talked about the way how YouTube and Google are actively suppressing people who talk about things they don't like. And by the way, you may be noticing that every day now, at least for the last 2 weeks, there have been background updates on YouTube every day for the last 2 weeks. At least I've been getting them. And as they do their updates, they are removing content and they are blocking content and they are taking away monetization and the threat of removing monetization in the future. That's called chilling the First Amendment. So we talked a little bit about that. We've talked a little bit about Iran and the threat that has increased exponentially. Not just because Iran wants to have a nuclear weapon, but because they have hypersonic missiles, and those missiles came from China that we are told are on good terms with Joe Biden because he just had a meeting and called them a dictator. And at the same time that he was having that meeting, they gave hypersonic technology to Iran. Doesn't sound like that's a good deal working out there. We talked a little bit about Hamas. U.S.-China. So let me see what else. Made in Canada is the single-payer health care. Universal health care. And what does that mean in China? In Canada? It means that you get to be suicided. You get assisted suicide. So that kind of brings me to something I thought was also very important to talk about. From Bernie Sanders. Because again, I've put the challenge out. Whoa, what did I just do to my computer? Hang on one second, folks. Come on. I'm messing up my computer here. So, just so you can see, there is Bernie Sanders. Let me show you. Bernie Sanders is calling for the United States to punish Israel and to create a ceasefire. Bernie Sanders wants to make it law, and he wants to force Israel to change the way they protect themselves. It's kind of like he wants Israel to be New York State. He wants to do what Hochul did. It's illegal in New York State to have a bulletproof vest to protect yourself passively. Well, Bernie Sanders wants the same thing for Israel. He wants it to be illegal for Israel to protect themselves the way that they are doing so. He wants them to change everything. Because Bernie Sanders, who is a member of the United States government, wants to control the Israeli government. Wow. And so he wants to control the money that we would give to Israel for aid. Now, in this article, as you read it through, and you read how Bernie Sanders is so angry with Israel. This is an article that comes from Politico. And he's angry with Israel. He wants Israel to change the way that they are waging war, defending their people from a group of terrorists. You notice what he doesn't say? That he has any conditions for the terrorists themselves. Bernie Sanders has no conditions for the terrorists to cease fire. He has no conditions for the terrorists to give back the American hostages. Politico and all the news media aren't asking Bernie Sanders, what about the Americans that were killed? What about the Americans that are currently held hostage? What about them? What are we doing about Hamas, a terrorist organization? What about that? Bernie Sanders has no problem. No, but he's a progressive. Bernie Sanders is a self-professed socialist, communist. Those are his words. Those are his ideas and beliefs. He can't talk about Hamas. They're working with China. But this is the thing. We should be asking this. Bernie Sanders, what about the Americans? Even if Bernie Sanders hates Israel, I don't know that he does. I'm not saying that he does. But even if he hates Israel, and he's like Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Anna Presley, and he is an anti-Semite, if that were the case, I'm not saying that he is, if that was the case, I would still say, what about the Americans? Even if you don't care about what happens to any single Israeli, even if Bernie Sanders wants Israel to burn and die like Iran, like Hamas, like Hezbollah, even if that is what he believes deep down and doesn't want to say it publicly, what about the Americans that were killed? What about the Americans that are held hostage and being tortured? Am I going off on this? Yes. Why? Because no one in the mainstream media is asking this question. No one in the mainstream news media is getting this answered in America. No one. The New York Times didn't ask him this question. The CNN, MSNBC, the left-leaning news media, they're not asking this question. It should be the first and only question that has been asked by our politicians since October 7th. Over a month, we do not have an answer. We don't even know how many Americans are hostage in Israel, in Gaza at this moment. We don't know how many are being used as human shields and tortured and raped as we speak. We don't know. That should be the first thing we know. That should be the first conversation that was asked and answered. How can we have negotiations through Qatar with Hamas, which is in fact is having conversations with Iran? How can we have conversations with Iran about American hostages? We don't even know how many there are. Or is it the fact, or is it that we do know? Is it the fact that the New York Times does know and has been confirmed by Hamas and Iran how many Americans are being held hostage right now? Is it a fact that CNN and MSNBC know exactly what the number of American hostages being tortured and raped are? They know that right now, and they don't want to tell you because it's too big a number. The number is bigger than 16. That the number is so high, it might change the way you vote in 2024 because you will realize that the Biden-Harris administration have failed Americans across the globe. And unlike Afghanistan, that no one knows where it is on a map. No one can find it, and most people don't even know it existed. Most people don't know where Ukraine is, can't find it on a map, and don't care. Most people have no clue where the Sudan is on a map. Didn't even know that it's part of the African continent. Hell, most Americans don't even realize that Africa is a continent, not a country. So they don't care. But people do know Israel. They know that name. They know that word. They know that nation. They do pay attention to that. And the kids in colleges damn sure know this. So, yeah, maybe the news media do know the actual number. Maybe our politicians, maybe Bernie Sanders does know exactly how many Americans are being held hostage. And he won't tell you because the number is too big. And you might not vote Democrat. You might not vote Democrat in 2024 because the number is just that big. And every time that these people who are saying pro-Palestine, which means pro-Hamas, those people who are supporting terrorism right now, if they suddenly realize they're supporting Americans being tortured, Americans being used as human shields, Americans being raped and tortured and killed, well, they might not be progressives anymore if they actually knew the consequences of every dollar that they are pushing forward. If they realize that we are teaching kids, indoctrinating them to be members of Hamas like Cornell University. If people think I am wrong, I know this is a difficult subject. It is not popular. It is not fun. I understand that clearly. And it needs to be discussed because the mainstream media won't do it. They're not doing their job. Politicians are terrified that somebody like me is going to walk up and ask them this question. What did Rashida Tlaib do when she was asked, how many babies is it okay? Do you support Hamas and they kill babies? Oh, she had no answer for that. She ran away from that. Well, how about this? How many Americans are being held hostage by Hamas since October 7th? How many? How many are still alive? How many have been tortured? How many have been raped? What's the number? It's a very simple thing to ask. And I've been asking it since October 7th. It has been the first question I've asked. It has been consistently the question I ask. Why is it no one in the world is asking this question, or at least no one is allowed to publish the answer? I think this is really important. But yet we get people like Bernie Sanders saying, well, Israel's the bad guy. Israel's the problem. Israel doesn't have American hostages. Let's start there. You want to convince me that Hamas are good guys, that they're oppressed? I'm sorry, you're not going to win that, especially when you can't tell me how many American hostages do they have? Why did they take them in the first place? Oh, because they're terrorists. Oh, well, then you lost me. And I don't want to restrict the funding for Israel, Bernie Sanders. I don't want to restrict that, Senator Sanders, when it would mean restricting the funding for Israel supports a terrorist organization that is willing to kill and capture American citizens that you don't seem to care about. And again, I can only say, I can't find Bernie Sanders saying, hey, these are the American hostages I want to get home. Are they from Vermont? Are they from New York State, California, Florida, Texas, Michigan, Illinois? I don't know. No one will talk about this. We should. When 400 Americans were captured and taken hostage by Iran in 1980, we knew their names. We knew who they were. When we've seen this happen over and over again throughout our history, we know. So they can't say, well, we don't want to tell you. Yes, you do. It puts pressure on them to keep those people alive. Because if you tell me John Smith is being held by Hamas, then I know that I will look in the news every day for John Smith to find out that he's still alive, to find out that he hasn't been tortured, to find out that he hasn't been raped. I want to find that news out. I have a name to put to that, and I can find out when John Smith comes home. To know that our government made him safe so that I don't become the next John Smith, that your mother, your daughter, your kids, your brothers, your sisters don't become the next John Smith. It's called about accountability, and we don't have it right now. Okay. And I am pretty sure that YouTube hates me having this conversation. I am pretty sure they are trying to suppress this conversation hard. But I'm not going to stop. I'm not afraid. And I think either YouTube or Facebook have cut off the channel, at least temporarily. Kind of like they did on Friday when I was talking with the Liberty First Foundation, because I'm showing you the evidence. You can say, Mike, I don't agree. You can say, Mike, I do not agree. Fantastic. I'm happy to see that comment. Please tell me. You don't agree. Fantastic. I have evidence. I'm showing you what Politico is saying. I'm showing you what Bernie Sanders is saying. I'm showing you what the world is reporting. This is the truth you're not supposed to pay attention to. But you say, Mike, you've been talking about everything that's going on around the world. You're talking about what's happening with Bernie Sanders and around the world, and this is the other side of the planet, and maybe you don't care what happens to Americans in other countries. Maybe you only care about what happens to Americans in this country. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I talk about international politics a lot. I've been talking about it for about an hour and a half. Let's talk about what's happening here in the United States. Let's have a conversation about how the United States is dealing with our own issues right now. How about we start off with the fact that the same news media that doesn't want to tell you how many hostages are held by Hamas, the same American news media that has forgotten about the Americans abandoned in Afghanistan, the Americans abandoned in Ukraine, the Americans abandoned in Sudan, that same American news media has forgotten to tell you that RFK Jr. is a candidate, that he is a legitimate candidate running as an independent, and that he is rallying people, that he has been gaining 22% projected in polls. He's been getting interest of 22% for the 2024 election. I know, it's not an approved message. You won't hear this from CNN, MSNBC. They don't want to talk about this because you're not supposed to know that he even exists. The moment he stopped being a Democrat, he stopped existing. Because there's only two parties in America, supposedly. Republicans and Democrats. If you're a libertarian, you don't exist. If you're a conservative, you don't exist. If you're the Green Party, you don't exist. But as long as you're a Democrat, and by the way, Democrat doesn't mean Democrats, it means progressive. It means the Democratic Socialists of America, who aren't. If you ask them, are you a Democrat? They'll tell you no, they're progressive. But they're in the Democratic Party for some reason. Doesn't make any sense. Fine. But when we look at that, and I'm talking about RFK for a very specific reason, okay? I'm going to get to your comment, Dow, in 1 second. And by the way, folks, more than Dow can comment. Don't let YouTube, don't let Facebook, don't let the social media giants make you afraid. Comment, folks. Whether you agree or you disagree, I'm perfectly fine. I don't care. But have your comments heard. Don't be afraid of the giants. Dow, give me a second. I'm going to get to your comment in 1 second. But I wanted to point out that the reason why I'm bringing up RFK, come on, bear with me, folks. There we go. I've got one screen that I'm working off of, so bear with me as I try and present this to you. The reason why I'm bringing up RFK is I know he exists as a candidate. I was at an event on Tuesday. I covered the entire event on Tuesday, which the news media doesn't want to talk about. News media didn't know it existed. It was in Manhattan. We were literally across the street from Baruch College in Manhattan. So we were right next to a college in Manhattan, downtown Manhattan. We had about 50, 60 people, many of them figureheads of the black and Hispanic community. You had a Democrat, a progressive, and RFK is a Democrat. He does believe in progressive ideology. And he was actually talking to black people and saying, hey, blacks, Hispanics, minorities, women, he actually is talking to you. Which, of course, may be the very reason why no one wants to talk about him. Because it's verboten. It is unapproved. You're not supposed to know he exists. June 27th, Democrats in the United States Senate were told that if they talked about any candidate except Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they would lose their funding for Move On. June 27th, 2023. That dinner happened. They made that threat. That's a fact. It's not a question. Also reported by Politico. It is a fact. So when we understand these facts, and we know that this event happened, I know that the New York Times was invited to this very same event. I know the New York Times was invited. I know that MSNBC and CNN were invited to this event. I know because Reuters did show up. He didn't want to talk about RFK. He didn't want to talk about the black vote. He wanted to talk about third parties. But I know Reuters sent one reporter, no photos. They didn't take any photos. They didn't take any video. They had one reporter who was doing interviews with his cell phone so he could write an article. I know when he showed up, it was 6:15. I know when he left, it was 8:15. I know this because I have him on video throughout the entire event. I saw him and I saw his credentials. So I know the mainstream media knew about this. You don't know about it. It's not because the mainstream media didn't know. It's not because they didn't have the ability to have someone in their Manhattan offices walk down the block and show up at the event. It's because it's forbidden. You aren't supposed to know. You're not supposed to have a conversation about a third party. And I know a lot of people are going to say to me, and I'm coming to your comment in a second, Dow. But I know a lot of people are going to say, but Mike, you're a conservative Republican. People say, but Mike, a conservative Republican, you're a conservative Republican, and you're saying, you're talking about covering an event. You went and covered RFK Jr. You were talking about him reaching out to black people and Hispanic people about progressive politics. Why would you let people know that? Because I believe in the First Amendment. It's real simple. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe that if you had a choice between the ideas of RFK and the Republican ideology, if you had a choice between progressivism and Republican ideals, you'll pick Republican ideals. I'm willing to stand up against the opposition and say, this is why I think my idea is better. I'm not afraid to have the conversation. I'm not afraid to put my ideology upside against his. And I think that if I let people know the truth to get the details, they'll agree with me more than they'll agree with the progressives. See, that's why it's called America. That's part of freedom. I could be wrong. I could fail. That's okay. It's a double-edged sword. Freedom means you might fail, and I have to be free to fail. But I think if you're truly being honest and you're truly being fair and you're truly being free, you have the conversation and let the best person win. And if that means that Joe Biden loses to RFK Jr., get a better Democrat. If Donald Trump were to lose to RFK Jr., then get a better Republican. It just means get a better candidate. Put up a better politician for the job. It doesn't mean hide these people and say, oh, they don't exist. Please don't listen to them. It means get someone better. Do I think Donald Trump beats RFK? Yes, I do. Do I think Donald Trump beats Joe Biden? I do. Is Donald Trump the perfect, best candidate that has ever existed? No, he is not. But I can compare them, and because I heard what the supporters of RFK were saying, because I've actually heard what Joe Biden has said, and I've seen his history, his track record, and I look at the track record of Donald Trump, and I hear what he says. Donald Trump is the best one of the choice. That's my decision. You may say, Mike, I don't agree. Fantastic. Do you even know what RFK has said? Do you know what he stands for? Do you know why? Do you know why there is a panel of individuals? We had a guy, if you're looking at the video right now, this guy, I have the cursor on him right now, right here, Tom, I forget his last name. He's with the super PAC, AV24. I haven't been paid by anyone. He's with the super PAC. He traveled from South Carolina to Manhattan just to sit for 3 hours with the people in that room to talk about why RFK Jr. is going to do better for blacks and Hispanics than what Joe Biden is doing. Kamala Harris won't even go to the border. Kamala Harris won't talk to anyone. Joe Biden says that if you don't vote Democrat, you're not black. That is as close as Joe Biden has gotten to justifying or giving blacks and Hispanics a reason why to vote for him, is because he said so. This guy actually traveled from South Carolina to New York City just to be at a 3-hour event to tell people why he thinks he has a better choice. I respect that. It doesn't matter whether I agree or not. I respect that he's willing to commit to that's how firmly he believes it. And the choice is, Joe Biden, if you're a Democrat, your choice is the guy Joe Biden said so. Yeah, okay. Let me go back to some of the comments here. So Dow says, I've seen it before. All this conflict should stop in Gaza right now. Only if there's a cultural shift among those in Gaza that comes to the realization that submission to the will of Allah is not. That happens. Hamas gets excited from the Gazan population and are expelled to the IDF, either for arrest or execution. The problem ultimately is going back to what's happening with Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, at the core of it all, Iran supporting the global terror in the world. The fact is, you can't change that. You can say, oh, we're going to have a ceasefire. Yeah, that didn't stop their ideology. They're still radical, fanatical terrorists. They still have sworn and have written down and have publicly stated that they want to genocide a group of people. You can't ceasefire that. So even if you want to take the point of view of Bernie Sanders, the point of view of Harvard University, Columbia University, and blame it all on just Israel and say, well, if Israel will just cease fire, it will end. It won't. Because Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah and the Houthis have promised and have stated for decades they want to kill all of the Israeli people and all of the American people, that they will never stop until everyone is dead. You can't cease fire that. Is it that hard to figure out? That no matter what Israel does, Israel could stop every tank right now, turn around, and go back across the Gaza border and never want to go back again. You could drop every bit of humanitarian aid. You can rebuild every single building, modernize every inch of Gaza, and they will never stop. Because it doesn't matter what they have. They could have every technological breakthrough known to mankind stuffed every inch of Gaza, and they will never stop. Because they are there to commit genocide. It has nothing to do with anything other than the existence. Israelis and Americans exist. You can't ceasefire that. You can't make peace with that. It's one of the reasons why Iran is one of the bigger threats to the United States. And I know nobody likes to talk about it, and everyone wants to forget about that. There's a reason why they're the greatest supporter of terror in the world. There's a reason why they have spent decades trying to attack America. There's a reason why they worked with China and North Korea to get hypersonic missiles. Because they don't care about anything except eliminating us. There is no peace with that. It's just, I don't know. Is it that hard to understand? I know Bernie Sanders, I truly believe Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, especially Rashida Tlaib, they get this. They know. They know for a fact. Joe Biden, they get it. They know there is no way that you can make peace with the people who say you have to cease existing. Not that you have to change your politics, not to change your government, to change your tax rate, to become more eco-clean and be, and go to solar energy. They don't care about any of those things. None of that matters. You could do all of that and they will still kill you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, let's put this to bed. At the end of the day, Iran, Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, they want you dead because you don't believe in God the way they do. That you want women to be able to read and to go to work. Because you believe in the LGB, that is a problem. That's it. That's a non-starter for them. You drink a cup of coffee. You have an iPhone. You listen to rock music, country music. You listen to rap music. You listen to everything except the Quran. You need to die. That's what Iran says. It's that simple. You can't negotiate with that. That's not, by the way, that's not Islamophobic. Because I know someone's going to try, oh, Mike's being Islamophobic. No, I didn't say anything about Islam. I said Iran. This is their worldview. This is what they have stated for decades. That they go onto Twitter, and before Twitter, they were on TV. They have a news station. They report this on a regular basis. I'm telling you what they have said. That's not Islamophobic. That's the truth. You may not like it. You may want to have a different opinion. Your teacher in college may have made it sound much nicer, but this is the reality. And that's also the reason, and that same separation from reality is why RFK Jr., any third-party candidate, the Libertarians, Mike Termott and the rest of them, they don't exist. Because the news media is saying, well, no, if we don't tell you about them, they don't exist. They do exist. What that tells me is you're not sure that the progressive Democratic candidate you're putting up, Joe Biden, that he's good enough. You're not sure that people will vote for him if they had a choice. And in fact, we know, because for years now, for 2 years now, we have seen in poll after poll after poll, 58, 68, 72% of Democrats do not want Joe Biden to run. They will vote for him if they have no other choice. They don't want him. They have never wanted him. They just didn't have anything else. Basically, it's like taking a horse to trying to force a horse to drink sand because there is no water. Same idea. Let me see here. Pretty sure that one of these channels, or YouTube's probably slammed at least one of these. Okay, so I am getting comments on Twitter at the moment, direct messages. I get it. I can't respond to that right now because we're on the show. I can only respond to the comments that are publicly there, assuming that YouTube and Facebook haven't completely dropped me. So, yes, I do invite people to take a moment to look at our coverage of RFK, find out what these people are saying there. I think you'll find it to be very progressive. I think you'll find it to be kind of the same message. Basically, same thing as Biden and Kamala Harris, except from somebody who isn't having, a meltdown, mental breakdown in front of your eyes. RFK still has his mind about him. You can't say the same thing for Biden, and Kamala Harris is just a sellout. My opinion. Yes, Dal, it does. I get what you're saying, Dal. I do understand. So, we talked a little bit about RFK Jr. We're still talking about what's happening here in the United States. What are the issues that we're dealing with at this moment? Because people say, well, Mike, I get it. The news media, they're trying to fortify the 2024 election. They're trying to hide things from the public. They're trying to manipulate the information people are able to see and hear. But what's happening? But I want to know what's happening in my neighborhood. What's happening around my block? What is it that, I'm more concerned about legal immigration. And I know people are saying, Mike, but illegal immigration, we have an open border. There should be no borders. It's good. It's good for America that we have no borders. Really? Go to Boston. Go to Boston, which is just like New York City, which is just like Chicago. It's like San Francisco and all of California. Same problem. Illegal aliens. They have so many illegal aliens, which is all about 10,000 of them. They have 10,000 illegal aliens in Boston, and that is breaking the city. The The city of Boston is falling apart, and they have to take their illegal aliens and they have to stick them into their airport because they got nowhere else to put them, because they can't handle it, because open borders don't make money, because having open borders and illegal aliens isn't a benefit to your city, because it costs more money. They have to spend $250,000 to put together emergency shelters. They don't even know where they're getting the money. They're hoping they're going to get the money from the Biden-Harris administration, and they have no idea where to put these people. That's why they're in the airport right now, because they don't know where to put these illegal aliens. They have no space for them. Now, the good news is it seems Boston, unlike New York City, unlike Chicago, isn't kicking American citizens out of shelters and out of hotels to put illegal aliens in their place. They just have them in airports. The airport is now a motel for illegal aliens. By the way, that's a health issue. That's all kinds of issues and problems. But here's the thing I find that's really interesting about this. It's not that Chicago and New York, California, all these places have these problems with these illegal aliens. And by the way, these problems, they're not even halfway done. When I say there's these problems, let me be very clear. We're talking about, as being reported here, where is it? There it is. As I'm showing you, and there's all the sources, by the way, are in the description. At the end of the show, you'll be able to see all the descriptions, all the links for everything we're showing you here. But what we can see, it's not just that they don't know where to put them in terms of housing. It's not just that, like last week, these illegal aliens, they want to be in hotels and not in tents and shelters like we saw in Brooklyn. No. It's that they cost so much. Even if you like illegal aliens, it means your kids will get less of an education. It means that you're going to be less safe. Let me be very clear about that. The open borders in New York State, in Massachusetts, in Illinois, in Chicago, in Boston, in New York City, throughout all of California, means you are less safe and your kids will not get an education. That's a pretty big thing to say. Yeah. And no, YouTube is censoring everything right now. Now, this is a pretty big thing to say. Let me prove what I am saying. Okay? Let me prove to you that this is happening. As an example, here is one of my examples, New York State. Come on. New York State. What are they saying? New York State is cutting $1 billion from the police department. We're going to go from 33,000 police officers to 30,000. That's 10%. Now you may say, Mike, 10% of the police force, that's not a lot. That's not a big deal. I don't care if there's, 10% less police until you need them. There's a reason why there's 33,000 police officers and not 27,000. It's because we need 33,000. This is a city that used to be 8 million. It's about 6-7 million people. We need a police force the size of an army in many countries. There's a reason why we need that. And every time we defund the police, every time, and since 2020, we have clear, exact data from 22 cities around the nation. And in every single case, in every single example, when you defund the police, when you reduce the number of police, not because crime is down, but because you can't afford them, because you cut their budget, in every single example, crime goes up. People die in larger numbers. People are hurt. Again, This may be unpleasant for Democrats who are watching this, progressives that are watching this. You may be mad at me, but it's the truth. Every single time that you see defunding the police, whether they call it reimagining the police, reallocating the funding for the police, they have a dozen different ways to say defund the police, to say reduce the number of police, to shrink the police department. They have lots of ways of saying this that sound really nice, and it always results in the same thing. More crime, more people that are hurt, more people that die. That is a fact every single time. All the data, every point of data from 2020 to today, 3 years of data, always shows us the same thing. In fact, every time we have ever seen that a city, a locality reduces its police force, not because crime is down, but they're cutting the money, always, every single time, we have seen crime increase. Is there a politician in California, in Portland, Seattle, Washington State, Boulder, Colorado, throughout all of Colorado, New York State, all of New York State, is there a single politician that would like to dispute this with me? Is there a politician or a Democrat or a progressive that would like to go data points and let's pull up the data from any state in the United States over the last 3 years? Let's pull up the data and let's talk about this. Does anyone want to dispute this? Because I guarantee you they won't. Ask any politician. Ask them the direct question. Has there been a single city that defunded and had less crime? The answer is no. If they are honest with you, they cannot point. There is no data anywhere in the nation. You can't find it because it doesn't exist. And New York City has just told you, and Boston is about to do the same thing, and Chicago is doing the same thing. Boulder is doing the same thing. In fact, in Denver, they are spending your tax money to send the illegal aliens anywhere and everywhere else. New York City is part of the $1 billion they're spending is sending illegal aliens anywhere and everywhere else, even when it's illegal to do this. They are shipping them out as fast as they can. One-way tickets. Denver's doing this. New York City is doing this. They are sending illegal aliens anywhere and everywhere to make it someone else's problem because they can't afford it. But here's the part that really gets me about all this. But they're keeping the gates open. They're not stopping illegal immigration. They're not telling illegal aliens to stop coming. They're still giving them hotels. They're still giving them free money. They're still giving them jobs. They're still protecting them. They're still welcoming them into Boston, into Chicago, into New York City, into California. They're still saying, come on in. You can't stay here, but you're more than happy to be here. Does this make sense to anyone? They can't take care of the problem they have, but they won't fix the problem. The answer is, well, we need more money. In fact, what are we seeing from Eric Adams right now? Eric Adams is blaming you. You didn't give him enough money. He needs more taxes. He needs more of your tax dollars. What is it? Mayor Adams urges rich New Yorkers to step up as the city buckles under the financial costs. It is your fault that there is a problem here because you didn't pay enough in taxes. You didn't give enough money to the government to take care of a bunch of illegal aliens that are breaking the state. And they're not stopping. They're still coming. So even if, you know what, if you took $1 billion, if you took a billionaire, Oprah, who's worth $1 billion, if you took every single penny that Oprah Winfrey has, took away $1 billion from her, and paid New York City $1 billion, all the money that Oprah has, you fixed the problem for 1 year. Maybe. That's if not one additional illegal alien comes to New York. If no more than 140,000 illegal aliens, no other illegal aliens were to enter New York City, then we could take every penny that Oprah has and we could pay for those illegal aliens for 1 year. 1 year. And then in 2025, we'd have a problem again. Oprah, of course, would have a problem because she'd have no more money. So we can take more money from her. We'd still have the same problem. We'd still need billions more. Oops. So you're not fixing it. So they're saying, oh, but you didn't pay enough money. You can never pay enough money. There isn't enough money in the world. It's why America's $35 trillion in debt. Because there's never enough. Because progressives always want more. Because they're always promising to give more. So when you hear Eric Adams, you just didn't give him enough money in taxes. He's lying. You gave plenty. He doesn't know how to spend the money. And he's giving it away not to American citizens, but to criminals. He's wasting your money. And he's not just wasting the money on criminals. It's not that he's putting them in shelters. He's putting them in 4-star hotels. Not you. You're homeless. You get to live on the streets in New York. But if you're an illegal alien, hey, we got a 4-star hotel. We'll spend $60,000 a year to make sure you're living great. And you're going to invite your brothers, your sisters, your uncles. You're going to invite everyone you know. I can't even blame the illegal aliens. It's free money. The gravy train is flooding right in front of them. I can't blame them for taking as much as they are being given. I have a problem with the fact that Eric Adams and Boston and Chicago and California, that they keep giving this. And they won't do the simple thing to fix the problem. The first thing, the ship is sinking. Plug the hole. Stop the flood. It's that simple, folks. Close the border. It isn't hard to figure out. It isn't that hard. Don't weld the gate open in Arizona. Don't take away the barbed wire in the river in the Rio Grande in Texas. Enforce the border. And when illegal aliens come in, send them back. They're not our requirement. They're not our obligation. Hell, you don't care about the Americans in the Sudan. You don't even care about the people in Sudan. They don't even care about the people in Syria or anywhere else in the world. You don't care. So you can't tell me that, oh, but I'm so concerned about the illegal aliens that are coming into New York. No, you're not. You don't even know where their countries are. Dow mentioned earlier that YouTube is censoring the chat conversation. I apologize to chat, and I know that I am seeing them censor the number of people who are watching this program. They are censoring what you can say. That is not me. That is all coming from YouTube because they don't like you to hear the truth. Again, I'm providing you sources. You may not like this. You may not agree with it 100%. I'm providing you sources. Credible news sources that confirm everything I am saying. You may not like the conclusions. You can't tell me my source is wrong. And because of that, YouTube doesn't want you to hear it in the first place. Dow mentions that defunding the police, downsizing police, and keeping it illegal for individuals to defend themselves. This is all happening in New York State. It is happening in Illinois. It is happening in Michigan with Governor Whitmer. It is happening in California with Governor Newsom. We're seeing this with Ted, what's his name? The mayor of Portland and Seattle. Yeah, we're seeing it across America. Dow goes on to say, so the lawful will get steamrolled, vacate the city, and state and paved the way for the empire to build their slave class built with illegal invaders when they finally get to reign in the chaos. They will never reign in the chaos. This is how they get to be perpetually here, because they have people across America of every political ideology screaming every day saying, do something, please do something. They're going to AOC. They're screaming at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They're screaming at Rashida Tlaib. They're screaming at Joe Biden. They're screaming at Bernie Sanders. Do something. Please, just do something. Eric Adams, Governor Hochul, do something. Please, just do something. Except the problem is, they're not saying do something effective. Do something efficient. Fix the problem. These are not the things we are saying. They're saying do something. So they go, okay, yeah, we'll make sure. What we're hearing from Eric Adams, what we're hearing from Kathy Hochul, what we're hearing from Gavin Newsom, what we're hearing from Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, what are they doing? They're making sure they get reelected. They're doing something. They are guaranteeing they have a job, a nice, cushy, very well-paid job. They're not fixing the problem. They're not helping you. They're helping themselves. And that's the problem. And that ultimately is one of the biggest problems. Again, I am happy to hear from any progressive, any Democrat, any elected official in America or around the world that would like to tell me that I am wrong, that would like to provide data that counters what I have been saying and what I have been showing from around the world. They won't, because they can't. Because the conclusions we are making here, the things that we are saying need to be discussed. The problems are real. The problems are affecting us all, and they are hiding from it because they want you to vote a very specific way. They're fortifying the election, 2024. They don't want you to hear or think about anything that might have you change your vote. Mind you, not just to not change Democrat votes from Joe Biden, but to not change Republican votes from Donald Trump. They don't want you to vote for RFK or a libertarian or anyone else. They want the power exactly where it has been. They want it with the establishment, and you better not change that, which is why this channel gets suppressed on a regular basis. It's why we get oppressed on a regular basis. And in fact, let me say it again, please like, share, subscribe. If it's because of the sources that we have provided to you to give you the link so you can find this information out for yourself. If it's because we're going into detail that the nightly news will not do. What they say in a minute and 30 seconds, we give you a complete detail in an hour, because you deserve to have the whole answer, to be able to ask the real questions and try to get the real answers. So if you want to support that, if you find it funny, if you think it's funny, educational, informative, whatever your reason, it helps you go to sleep at night. It's all fine. Like, share, most of all, subscribe. Help us. And if you have the money, and I know we are in a recession. We've been in a recession since August of 2022. I know there is a global food crisis going on. 30% less food in the world today, and next year that is going to increase to 40% less food in the world versus 2019. I know it's difficult, but if you can, we ask you to join our Patreon. It's $1.50 a month. That's it. And it will never go higher. We will never ask you for more than $1.50 a month. It helps us to keep the lights on and to keep doing this because it is expensive. If you do have the money, fantastic. You can donate to Patreon. Donate whatever you want. That's up to you. But honestly, just like, share, and subscribe. Because God knows, YouTube does not want this conversation to be had. Even if you think I'm wrong. Even if you think I have no idea what I'm talking about. Fantastic. Then let's have the conversation. Prove me wrong. Let's do that. Prove me wrong. Let's have that conversation. Oh, no, we can't talk about that. No, you're not supposed to talk about that. It's kind of like Captain Marvel. It's a fantastic film. The Marvels. The Marvels. It's the best film since the last film that they told you have to see. It is fantastic. And you are simply a racist, sexist, istphobe if you don't go watch The Marvels, which no one is watching. Oh, The Marvels is not making money because men aren't seeing it. Maybe it's because it's not a good movie. No. It's just because of sexism. Well, men were 65% of the audience the first week. Women didn't go see The Marvels. Women, the feminists who are telling you that it's just about sexism, didn't go see the movie they're telling you should go see. They didn't do it. And they didn't come back this week. They've had an entire week to try and convince you that you must see The Marvels or you are a racist, sexist pig. And those very same progressives, didn't go see it themselves. How can I say that? Because the audience for The Marvels went down 80% this weekend. The progressives aren't doing what they're telling you to do. They're going to blame you. You are the problem. You didn't do it. You didn't spend your money on what they want. You didn't obey their desires. You didn't adopt their feelings. So you're the problem. It's your issue. Mind you, they aren't doing a damn thing themselves. Oh, The Marvels is the bestest movie ever. Why didn't you go see it? To ask the progressives, why didn't you go see it? If it's the bestest movie ever, why didn't you go see it 2, 3, 4 times? Because you didn't. How do we know that? Because the audience went down 80%. Because it's not a good movie. Period. It's not because men are sexist. It's not because of the race of the people. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's not a good movie. It's bad entertainment. You're so busy trying to shove politics and propaganda down our throats, you forgot to even make it palatable. It's like someone burning a steak, giving you a charcoal brick and saying, hey, this is a steak. It'll be fantastic. It's a brick. You burned it. Don't worry. It's fantastic. What are you eating? Oh, I'm eating some, sirloin tips. But you get to have this charcoal brick. I know, sometimes my analogies are not perfect. Gotta remember, folks, I'm the only person doing this. This is live. It's not scripted. Sometimes I have really good examples. Sometimes they're crap. I can't help it. I'm making it up as I go. This is not scripted. This is me talking to you. And obviously, I'm not a comedian. I don't do improv. So, I guess I do improv because this is all improv, but you get my point. All right. So I was talking, so we've established that Boston's falling apart, Massachusetts is falling apart, Illinois and Chicago are falling apart, New York State and New York City falling apart, California, all of it's just going to hell. It's been hell in a handbasket for a long time. We got Washington State, Portland, they're all going haywire because the progressives don't care. Because they think that there's always going to be someone else to pay for it. Just like Mayor Adams is asking them to do right now. Oh, everything is going wrong. We need $14 billion for the illegal aliens. Assuming that not one more illegal alien comes in. And there's going to be more. They're not stopping. They're going to keep coming in. In 2024, there will be as many, if not more, illegal aliens in New York State, in Boston, in Chicago, in the United States, as there were this year, guaranteed. But they don't care. They don't care. I wanted to talk to you about. See, and let's think about this. And these people, they are really, really vile. Let me explain what I mean here. Because it's not just that they're running around saying, hey, you have to do what they say. You have to obey. Hang on. There we go. Come on. Where is it? Oh. Bear with me, folks. So, it's not just that they want you to pay for everything. The progressives want you to pay for everything they want. They want you to do what they say. And if for some reason you don't, if you're like Bernie Sanders and you're like, oh, well, you do something that they don't approve of, they riot. This is what the progressives do. They go out and they riot. Now, remember, what happened with January 6th? Supposedly, it was a riot trying to take over our government. Police were attacked. Property was destroyed. Hundreds were arrested. And our politicians were prevented from being able to operate the government. This is what, what's his name? Jumaane Williams. That's what he did recently, which was insurrectionist. What about this? In California, the California Democratic Party cannot, let me say again, cannot operate. They had to shut down this weekend. They couldn't nominate their candidates. They couldn't approve anything. They couldn't pass any bills. Why? Because the progressives were busy protesting. Don't believe me. This is coming from the California news itself.
Canceled. Convention organizers tell KCRA3 there are safety and security concerns for delegates and convention participants that are out of their control. Officials wouldn't specify what those circumstances are. We do know, though, that protesters shut down
because of security concerns. The Democrats, the progressives, are so violent that if you don't obey them, if you don't do every single thing that they say, if you don't give them the money they demand, if you don't spend the money where they want it to be spent, if you don't have the feelings they want you to have, they get violent. They violently protest. They're doing it in California. Guess what? They did it in D.C. too. In D.C., they shut down the entire city. They shut down Congress. 300 protesters, pro-Hamas leftist protesters, shut down Washington, D.C., threatened people. They threatened the ability of people to leave the buildings. It was a safety hazard, fire hazard. They attacked police officers. You don't have to believe me on this, folks. It's not just me saying this. Let me show you the evidence here. Let me get you the evidence. Because it's not just that one news article. Here it is. I want to make this as clear as I can for you guys to show it to you. Here it is. Come on. I know I only have one screen, so bear with me. This is from the United States Capitol Police. You know, the people that we were told were the heroes on January 6th. The people who killed Ashley Babbitt, who killed 5 Americans. They killed 5 Americans on January 6th. Police weren't killed on January 6th. No protester killed a police officer. There is no connection. The only people who were killed because of January 6th were American citizens killed by the U.S. Capitol Police. But the Capitol Police are the good guys, according to, if you listen to the left, if you listen to the progressives, they're the good guys. And these good guys are telling you right now that the progressives were the ones doing exactly the same thing as January 6th. And they did it this week. They attacked police officers. They destroyed property. They shut down the government. That's the left. That's what the left does. Over and over and over again. They're doing it in California. They did it in Washington, D.C. Oh, but you're not supposed to think about that. You're not supposed to have a thought about that. You're supposed to say, that's okay. That's not a problem. It's okay. What do you mean? So they're pro-Hamas, they're far-left pro-Hamas protesters, and they destroyed a building. It's okay. You know, look at Portland. They were burning down the courthouses on a regular basis. They're constantly protesting in Seattle. I mean, that's all you do in Seattle. San Francisco, yeah, this is normal. Why are you complaining? Seriously, folks, come on. Come on. What we know, this is what the left does. They are violent. They are racist. They are sexist in their ideologies. They demand obedience. They're authoritarian. Probably trying to send a police car after me right now. I heard it. And you're supposed to just blindly obey. And I'm not, I'm only telling you the news from California. You don't know about that. You didn't hear that in California, Democrats were shut down because of progressives, that they could not do their jobs because of progressives. Well, you didn't hear about Washington, D.C., that I just showed you the evidence of. You didn't hear about how hundreds of Democrats were arrested, how progressives were arrested for shutting down Washington, D.C. You didn't hear that in the nightly news. That was gone. Oh, we don't have time for that. That's not important. You're supposed to vote Democrat. Why would you vote for this? Look at what you're voting for. Bankrupt cities where you're not the priority. Your safety's not the priority. They're willing to defund police and leave you helpless to criminals. They're going to pay the criminals to have a better life than you have with your money. And if you complain about it, if you try and do anything about it, they're going to riot in the cities and they're going to try and break you and everything you own. This is what you get for Democrats. This is what the progressives are doing. And this is what they're teaching you in colleges. This is what our colleges are teaching our kids, the next generation. This is what they're teaching them is the right thing to do. That if people don't listen, if they don't obey, well, then you get the right to burn down their house. You get to attack them. You get to attack their politicians. Seriously, folks, this is scary shit. And Bernie Sanders gets to sit on a high horse and tell you, you're just the bad guy because you're not doing what he wants. Mayor Adams will tell you, you're not paying enough in taxes. You need to give more money to these criminals, to terrorists. You need to give your money to the terrorists who want to kill you. This is what the progressives tell you. Is there anyone, the progressive leaders of tomorrow, ANTIFA, the New York Indivisible, the Working Families Party, is there anyone who wants to dispute this? Democratic Socialists of America. Do any of these guys want to? They never, ever want to dispute these things. They won't talk about it because it's not a lie. It's the truth. They know this. They admit this. They put it in writing. They just don't want you to talk about it. It's really upsetting, folks. It really, really is. And I'm willing to talk about this. I really want you to understand this. How about this? We're talking about January 6th. We're talking about the way in which we have seen the media warp everything. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So this is from the Daily Cost. You cannot get further to the left. You really can't. You really can't get further to the left than the Daily Cost. These guys are as far left as, well, the day is long. And they're saying, you are destroying democracy by letting American people see the video from January 6, 2021. This is destroying America. Their problem is that they want, it's that if you see the video from January 6th and any faces are blurred, oh my God, we can't hold them accountable. We can't punish people. Here's 40,000 hours of video of people walking down hallways peacefully. Here are 40,000 hours of video of police officers standing around having a conversation as people peacefully walk past them. We have tens of thousands of hours of video of people, of the police opening up the doors and ushering in hundreds, if not thousands of people peacefully. And the Daily Kos wants to punish each and every one of those peaceful people. The Daily Kos, the far left, want you punished because you were a peaceful civilian. They're saying it is a threat to America's safety to show the video because people are able to see the public places that they walk through. The very same, you can take a tour of Congress and see exactly the same hallways, the same rooms, the same doors that are in the video. And Democrats are like, well, that's obviously a safety violation. What if a terrorist sees that? What if a terrorist walks in a tour? It's public information. This isn't hidden or secret. And when you get past that, oh my God. Yes, it is public information. And anyone could take a tour of Congress and see exactly the same rooms. And we have seen these rooms for years. But that's okay. You know what? But the other problem is we need to punish everybody whose face shows up. Yeah, but they were just walking down the hall. Yeah, but that means they're a criminal. But they were let in by the police. Yes, but they're a criminal. How can they be trespassing if the police opened the door and let them in? People think I am kidding about this. Let me show you what I am talking about here. This is evidence that is coming. Let me just grab the whole thing here. Let me try and bring this all to you. Bear with me for a second. Where is this? There we go. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right. Let me see if I can show you this. So, I want you to see these videos. Do you see this? This is from 40,000 hours of video showing us what is going on. 40,000 hours of video are just like this. People peacefully walking through the hallway. And the Daily Kos is telling you that's a criminal. That is a crime. Look at the crime on your screen right now that people are walking peacefully through a hallway. They don't want you. You know what? This is more important than dealing with illegal immigration in New York or California or in Boston or in Brooklyn. This is more important than trying to lower crime in the United States. This is more important than everything. These people have to be charged for walking down a hallway. And I know what you're going to say, Mike, but that's one video. But Mike, that's only one video. Yeah, what about this one? Here's another video. And what do we see here? Oh, they're walking past the police and they're thanking the police officers, patting them on the back. Oh, look at that. Hey, thank you. Thank you, man. You're doing a good job. I'm glad. Let me shake your hand as we peacefully walk past you, as the room is filled and we're just peacefully not destroying anything. No police officers have a problem. That's a criminal. That's what the Daily Kos wants. Remember, all of those progressives, the J6 committee, this is the crime they were absolutely. Look at these crimes going on here. Hang on. Wait a minute. Mike, you just don't understand. There's way more crime. I mean, it's 40,000 videos. Like this one. Oh, what's this? These are police officers, and they're right next to civilians. You can see them. Look, here's the civilians, and the people, and no one cares. Absolutely no one's worried. Absolutely no one. Absolutely no one is worried here. Absolutely no one is concerned. There is no one who's trying to be arrested here. Oh, I know what you're saying. But Mike, but people did get arrested. I mean, didn't you see the guy in handcuffs? Didn't you see the guy in handcuffs, Mike? Where's that one? I have that one. Oh, by the way, this is the Capitol Police. Those heroes beating a woman near to death. This is Victoria White, who is getting beaten to death by the Capitol Police. 3 or 5 Capitol Police officers are beating her down, beating her near to death. And the Democrats want her to get 90 days in jail for being beaten by the police. Yeah, they're really nice guys. Let me see. There is a video here. Which one? Bear with me, I'm trying to find it. No. Hang on, folks, hang on. I lost my video. Hang on, I've got to bring it over. Hang on a second, folks.
He rolled in and ate a poop. So you gotta watch him tonight.
My dog just came back from a walk, and he's being the kind of dog he is. Very silly.
What's on your face?
He was doing silly things. So, there is I thought I had this already. I thought I had the video. I know someone has it. Someone has to have it. Where is it? Bear with me one second, folks. I'm trying to find for you. There is a video of a police officer. A guy was in handcuffs, and then he was released. They just removed his handcuffs. And I know I have this somewhere. And I'm trying to find it for you. Is this it? Bear with me, folks. Yeah. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, folks. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So there it is. Oh, wait a minute. I moved the whole thing. That's why. Duh. Bear with me. I know. What is this Mickey Mouse? Nobody's being paid for this. Doing this all free, you would think that someone's actually making money. Okay, so in this video, and let me see if I can expand it for you. Let's start it from, you're going to hear the volume in just one second. Here it goes. So I want you to watch. From the beginning, what do we see? Protesters taken, stop, handcuffs removed, fist bump, Yep. Have a nice conversation. Hey, see you. Go ahead. You're gone. Okay, so let me say something here. Come on. So let me say something about that. That's the one video I agree with the Daily Kos about. That's the one video that I think they have actually something to say about. Is that we get to see, and this is part of that 40,000 hours of video that the January 6th committee never wanted you to see. That Democrats are saying, you can't see this now. It has to be hidden from the American public, because you may notice that these arrests aren't quite arrests, that some of these people are being treated in a way that the public isn't being treated, that they're being handcuffed and then let go, that some of them seem to have badges, that something seems to have been done, that Nancy Pelosi was reached out. We know, as we get more of this evidence, that the Capitol Police reached out to Nancy Pelosi 4 times to get support and to get answers, and she said nothing to them. But remember, the left have made the decision for you. They know the best answer. They've told you what you're going to do. How dare you look at 40,000 hours of video and find innocent people walking down a hallway? How dare you watch the police let people walk around without any problems? How dare you show that the police were beating women near to death? And in fact, they did beat women to death on January 6th for walking a hallway. How dare you tell the American people the truth? How dare you show American people the truth? I know that, and we see this, and you're right, Dow is mentioned, and yet we've got a bunch of the Democrats that are out there, and they're saying, no, but here's that one 5-second video, like Ashley Babbitt. This is Ashley Babbitt getting shot. What about the minute before she got shot? I've seen that video. What about the 1 minute beforehand, when every single member of the Capitol Police that were in that room, that had control of that room, walked down the stairs and around the corner, and only then did Ashley Babbitt get shot? Only then did you see that room go into chaos, after the Capitol Police walked away and she was shot to death. The Capitol Police officer that shot her is not a hero. He did not do a heroic thing. It was evil. And if anyone disagrees with me, bring up the full 5-minute video. Oh, most people didn't know? The shooting of Ashley Babbitt isn't a 30-second video. It is a 5-minute video. And there are 3 minutes before Ashley Babbitt gets shot that are on video. 3 minutes before, the minute when she's shot, and the minute after that. So everyone in America has seen that one 30-second section where she gets shot, and they say, see, she's so evil. That was obviously insurrection. Show the people the 3 minutes before that, when the Capitol Police were sitting in the room having a pleasant conversation with all the protesters, and then they left. All at once, all together. They got a message, they spoke to each other, and they left the room. And then she got shot. And then they came back into the room. Again, this is the truth. This is the evidence that is real. That's the 40,000 hours. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every single person out of the 300,000 people, yes, 300,000 people were at the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. And I'm not going to tell you all 300,000 of them were good people. I don't know. I don't think Ray Epps was a good person. I think Ray Epps was criminal and that he's gotten away with criminality. So not all 300,000 people were innocent. What about the guy I just showed you in the video? He was handcuffed and suddenly he gets released. I don't know who those people are. I don't think that was necessarily a good thing that happened there. I don't know. Could be a buddy, could be a cop and his buddy and said, hey, I'll let you go because you're my buddy. Maybe. I don't know. What I can say is that there seems to be an overwhelming amount of evidence that the demonization of American citizens for merely letting their voices be heard isn't correct. That we have been sold a lie, the propaganda of limited action. Here's 5 seconds. This is the problem with sound bites. Here's 30 seconds. That's all you get. Here's one sentence. That's all you get. No questions, no follow-up, no question. Here's just 30 seconds. Accept that. That's the truth. That's all you get to know. Oh, but what happens when we wait 6 months, 2 years, and then we get the truth? Hunter Biden laptop, it's not real. Well, 6 months later, yes, it is. Oh, the Biden family, the daughter who has a niece who has her, a diary. And that's not real, except it is. January 6th. Well, they were all violent all the time and destroyed everything, except they didn't. It's not true. Not real. Lies and lies and lies and lies. And then we find out the truth after the fact. And they normally want you to find out the truth after the next election. Not before, after the next election. People, we should be asking these questions. Yeah, I know. I know, Dal, you've been watching a lot of these videos. There's more than just what I've just shown. Again, there are thousands of hours of video. Thousands. There's 40,000 hours of video. The average American has seen all of 2 minutes. Because that's what the news media has shown you. In combination, they have put together 2 minutes out of 40,000 hours of video, and they put together 2 minutes, and they're telling you the entire story is in 2 minutes. 40,000 hours shrunk down to 2 minutes, and there's a political agenda in there. And they're saying, no, there's no political agenda. This is the only 2 minutes you need to watch. I just showed you a combination of about 5 minutes, and that tells you more than the 2 minutes that you have been fed for 3 years by the mainstream news media. And I'm the bad guy. I actually showed up at an RFK event as a Republican covering a Democrat, and the left-wing news media wouldn't do it. But I'm the bad guy. I'm showing you and I'm asking the questions to Bernie Sanders, who's telling you that Israel is bad, but he won't remember the American hostages. I'm the bad guy. I'm talking about getting the American hostages back from around the world. I'm the bad guy. You're the bad guy. You. Because how dare you ask a question? You're supposed to obey. That's it. Just obey. No questions. Just do what you're told. I'm sorry. That's not right. That's not America. Again, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not telling you that you have to believe what I believe. That's not important. I don't care if you believe what I believe. I care that you have information so that you can make up your own mind. Again, every single link that I have provided is available in the description at the end of the show. In fact, more than what I've been showing you is available in the description so you can see it all for yourself. I want you to make up your mind, to figure it out for yourself. These are the questions I have. These are the things I think we need to talk about. Maybe you have a better question that I haven't even thought of yet. Maybe there's something that your politician, your local politician, absolutely needs to answer. Like Adam Schiff. Mr. Schiff, why is it that you didn't want to show the American people any of this information we now have? Why did you deny that it exists? Why did you hide it from the American people? There's no safety threat in this. These are rooms that people publicly walk through every damn day. You can't tell us there's a safety risk there. You can't tell us that there's some information. There's nothing there except people walking through a hallway, a bunch of police officers watching them do it. You can't tell me there's a reason. There is no legal reason why we can't see that. But no one wants to ask Adam Schiff or the J6 committee or the Democratic Party or the American news media, why didn't you show us this? Why is it that information you didn't want us to see? Why did you show us the same 45 seconds over and over again? Why did you cut out the important parts? They don't have an answer because you're not supposed to answer it. Hell, it's kind of like something else. I'll give you something else that you probably didn't know about, folks. Something that you probably have not heard about. Here's some news. Bear with me. Here it is. So let me show you some news. Oh, damn. Come on. Where is it? There it is. Did you know that this week, Mike Lindell, who is being sued by Dominion, the election counting system, he won. He won. Mike Lindell won. He's been vindicated. The courts said that there were election irregularities, that there is more than enough evidence that exists for him to say there's a problem with our election system, that our counting, the online voting systems are a problem, that there is a potential of the votes not being counted correctly. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I want you to understand. He went to the courts. He provided his evidence. And whether YouTube likes it or not, whether Google or Facebook like it or not, whether or not it flies in the face of their efforts to fortify elections, the fact is there is more than enough evidence to prove that there is a problem with our elections right now. That we may not be getting the people elected that we should have elected. Just like we saw in Connecticut 2 weeks ago. I showed you the evidence. Courtroom conversation from Connecticut courts that people, mail-in ballots, were being stuffed. We have video of it. The testimony of Democratic members of the Board of Elections in the state of Connecticut saying they counted votes illegally. We have Mike Lindell winning. Why didn't you hear about Mike Lindell? Why didn't you see that video about January 6th? Why is it no one's asking about the American hostages being held by Hamas? It's all the same thing. It might change your vote. You might not vote Democrat. You might not vote for Joe Biden. You might ask questions. Let's see here. Dal, you are the one just typing up a storm. I'm assuming that a lot of people are trying to type and that YouTube is killing it. But again, folks, I want you to understand. Why can't you ask this question? I am going to be, this channel is going to be suppressed. I'm going to be threatened with this channel being struck down. They're going to come after me for having this conversation with you. Because they've been having this threat against me for having these conversations with you. They're making sure that I cannot get paid, that I do not get sponsors, that I do not, well, not so much the sponsors, that I do not get monetization on any of my videos. You're seeing, as I showed you earlier in the show, they're threatening me on videos that aren't monetized, that they'll never be monetized from 4 years ago. They are telling you, we're going to take away all your money, Mike. Just stop speaking. Just stop speaking. We're going to make sure you can't get an audience. They do not want you to hear this. I'm not telling you that I'm 100% right. I'm not telling you that I'm perfect. I'm not telling you to be a Republican or a conservative. I haven't said anything like that. I'm asking you to think for yourself, to make your own decision, to look at the evidence, the data from around the world, and make your own conclusion, to ask your own questions. And they damn well don't want you to do that. Dow suggests that if you are trying to leave messages in chat, whether on YouTube or Facebook, and you're not getting it through, which means, as you can see, if you cannot see it right this second, that's because of YouTube, not because of me. I have never stopped anyone from making comments other than spam. That if you're not getting through, use a VPN, because it may be blocked in the United States, which seems accurate because normally there are at least half a dozen to a dozen people who are making comments throughout the entire run of the show. We've been talking for almost 3 hours. We normally have a dozen people from around the world, sometimes from the United Kingdom, sometimes from Sweden. We've had people talking to us from Sweden, from India, from Australia, that join us, that are a part of the conversation. And at the moment, only Dow. I doubt that. We have people in California, I know, that watch the show every week, that make a comment every week, even if it's just to say hello. And none of them? I don't think that's the case. You mean to tell me that every single Democrat that watches this, and there are many, and all the politicians, their staff that watch this, and there are many of them, I know this, they've told me this privately, in person, off the record, that they have their staff watch the program. You mean none of them are willing to make a comment? Not one? I doubt it. So, I mean, I'm trying to make sure that we understand what is the reality of what is going on here, folks, of how you are being used and abused over and over again. I'll give you another example of what I'm talking about here. Let me see if I can show you this. Bear with me. We're going to try and get... Yeah. There we go. So, what we have here is Atlanta. Atlanta is burning down again. If you may recall, earlier this year, it was earlier this year that... There it is. January. In January this year, insurrections, the progressive far left, ANTIFA, in their autonomous zones, the defenders of the Atlanta forest, threatened the city of Atlanta, tried to burn down buildings throughout the city of Atlanta, tried to burn police stations in the city of Atlanta, endangering the lives of not just the people from the arson, but also because of the criminal element that would have no restriction. These criminals attacked the people of Atlanta because they didn't want police to have a better education, to be trained on how to interact with the public, to be able to have more safety, for the fire department to be trained how to better put out fires, for EMS to be trained how to save lives better. The Antifa, the far left, the progressives did not want that. And they said, that's Cop City. You can't do that. You can't teach firemen and EMS and police officers to do their jobs better. You can't do that. No. You just need to listen to the progressives. So they tried to burn down Atlanta. They tried to burn down neighborhoods in Atlanta. I covered it. You can see the video right there. You see the video. So when that failed, what do we see now? What's happening now? They're still doing it. The same Defenders of the Atlanta Forest, which is an offshoot, a rebrand of ANTIFA. It's the far left Antifa with a new name. And they're still at it. They're still trying to. They just, again, went into Atlanta and committed 12 acts of arson. 12 acts of arson. They tried to burn down 12 different trucks and vehicles, construction. They tried to, again, this is something that the city of Atlanta has voted on. Their politicians who are elected by the people have discussed with the public. It's been approved. It's been reviewed. And Antifa says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the public voted for this, that the public voted for the people who voted for this. It doesn't matter that this is good for the community. Antifa doesn't like it, so it has to be burned down. And they are willing to attack their own people to do it. And the funny part is, then you get organizations like Democracy Now! That have no idea who did it. The very Defenders of the Atlanta Forest, Antifa, admitted on their website that they did it, that they committed arson, that they're trying to burn down this which has already been paid for, taxpayer paid. They're trying to burn it down because they don't like it. They already admitted to doing it. And then if you go to Democracy Now!, they go, we have no idea who could have possibly done this. It's shocking to us. You mean the same people that all year long have been trying to burn down Atlanta, that have been trying to use guns, they have attacked people, they have shot at police officers to try and force their will onto others. You mean that they're still doing it, and we have no idea who could have possibly committed the arson? Really? What? Do you need them to stand there with the gasoline can in their hand, with a lighter in their other hand, going, by the way, I'm in Antifa? How much more evidence do you need? Obviously a hell of a lot, because they're like, oh my God, they're criminals who work in the same organization trying to burn down public property and endanger citizens' lives, and they're being arrested and called terrorists for endangering the lives of the public and multiple acts of arson. And they're saying, oh, I can't understand it. How could that possibly be? How is that even possible? It's just mind-bending. We have multiple sources that are talking to us about how this is happening, and the left media are going, I don't know how that happened. They just don't understand it. Folks, I am amazed by this. This is our country now. We have college students being taught to be part of a terrorist organization. We have Antifa, a terrorist organization, running around in cities creating autonomous zones, which are illegal. They are insurrectionist by definition. They violate every local, state, and federal law in existence. And we have them running around this nation trying to burn down our cities like Atlanta. And people are going, but the left is good. Oh, it's those evil Republicans. I guarantee you do not see the KKK. You do not see, correction, you do not see the MAGA Republicans going across America trying to burn down cities. You don't see it. You don't see the MAGA Republicans trying to stop police from being trained to be better, firemen from being trained to do better. You don't see them trying to invite people to invade the United States and bankrupt our cities and our states. You just don't see that. That's only coming from the left. I don't know. It's not racist. It's not sexist. It's not misogynistic. It's not Islamophobic to say these things, to ask these questions, to expect that our government is going to tell us the truth the first time, not 6 months later, like with the laptop, not years later, like the J6 videos are now providing to us, that they would tell us the truth the first time. But that's not what's happening. It's just not. Let me see. I'm just very aggravated today. I tell you, you guys don't know how aggravating this is sometimes. To go through some of these stories and have to... Oops. Yeah, that gives you an idea, by the way. You just saw a glimpse of the number of stories that I go through in a week. If you notice that screen for a quick second there, if you notice the screen, it showed you the drop-down menu. That's just the number of stories that I go through in a week to be able to make this program. It's a lot. I go through a lot of stuff. The U.S. needs more ammo. Denver is spending millions to transport illegal aliens to anywhere but in Denver. What's this? Oh, and of course there is the news that was reported as the program started today that Joe Biden is at the lowest rating he has ever been. His approval rating is at the lowest level pretty much throughout almost his entire... What? Sorry, my screens all just went black. All my computers died. Everything. Oh, there it is. Okay, this is my computer screen. Every computer screen went black for a second there. I don't know if you saw that or not. Hey, Bellin! Good to see you, Bobby. Good to see you. I hope that your messages have been getting through. I don't know. So, let's try and sum up some of these things here. We are consistently seeing that the news media and our government are working together to make sure you don't ask questions, that you do not get informed in a timely manner with clear information and all the information, that politicians, for their own personal benefit, are using these crises to make sure that they get reelected and maintain power. And they are willing to throw Americans under the bus, both here domestically and overseas. A lot of people won't like hearing that. I don't care. Because it's not about whether you like it or not. It's about whether or not it's true. And the fact is, it is true. I have shown you evidence from news agencies around the world as well as across America. Credible news agencies, almost every single one of them being from the left. This isn't almost every news source we use. In almost every video that I do, 90% of them are always from the left. This information isn't partisan. This is the truth. I'm just showing it to you. And I'm asking you to ask the questions that should have been asked in the first place. That our media stopped doing their job. They became partisan hacks, and they went from being a journalist to be a propagandist. They're pushing their ideology rather than actually getting the truth and looking at the real situation. which is not helping anyone. Under the Obama administration, under the Biden administration, you have become more of a target than ever before. Your life is now more in danger, both from criminals in the United States and from terrorists outside the United States. That's a fact. And they're only getting worse. If you think I'm wrong, what has Kamala Harris done in the last 3 years? What has Joe Biden done that's been successful? Yes, there's more inflation. Yes, there's more crime. Yes, there's more anarchy in the world. What has he done that's actually been a benefit? What can you point to? Because his campaign hasn't found anything that he has done right. Democrats, all of his surrogates, on all the TV shows, can't point to anything that he has done that has been a benefit. They will not dare say, compare yourself today to 4 years ago under the Trump administration. Were you doing better then or now? No one wants to ask that question because you're doing worse today. Everyone, universally, across the board in the United States, no matter what income you have, you were doing better 4 years ago than today. That's a fact. You were safer 4 years ago than today. That's a fact. There is no dispute about that. It's empirically correct. There was less crime 4 years ago under Donald Trump. There was less of a threat of World War III or 3 regional wars 4 years ago under Donald Trump than there are under Biden. That's fact. There were less illegal aliens. New York City wasn't being broken. Boston, Chicago, Michigan, Portland, Colorado, Denver, California weren't being broken by illegal aliens. It's a fact. I love it. Yeah. Kamala Harris has cackled her way through ineptitude. That woman is absolutely inept. And all we have seen is we have been lied to. And the really sad thing is, under the Biden-Harris administration, we have been lied to consistently, over and over again. Information, the truth, has been hidden from us on a regular basis. Biden's bank accounts, all the money that he's been receiving from all the businesses, being the big guy, the 10% for the big guy, money that started coming to him in 2015 while he was vice president. We have the bank accounts. They have been investigated by our government. It is valid and verified. He got money from businesses and individuals that he should never have gotten, and he hid it from the American people. He has tens of thousands of emails that he has hidden from the American people because he used a fake alias so that you wouldn't know it was him. We know this. It is a fact. It exists. It has been admitted. We have the news media editing stories, hiding stories, suppressing stories so that you don't know the truth. We have them selectively putting out video just so that you don't know the truth. But thank God America is free. Thank God, given enough time, the truth always comes out in America. The secrets get revealed. And then we find out we got lied to. They lied to you about the jab. It has side effects. You will still get the pandemic. You will still transfer the pandemic. That's the reality. That's a truth. You cannot deny that. It was always true, and it still is true. They lied to you. You're not safer because of red flag laws. They do not make you safer. They do not prevent suicide. They do not stop gang on gang fights or black on black crime. Doesn't work. Is ineffective. You are not safer. Banning the American citizens from being able to have bulletproof vests does not make you safer, does not end crime. Open borders does not make you safer, does not improve the economy. It does not help you. Abandoning Americans around the world, country after country after country, does not make the world safer, does not make Americans safer, and it does lead to more conflict in the world and more people attacking American citizens. That is a reality. That's the reality. John says, hey, John. Thank you, John, for being part of the audience. John says, Mike, what are your thoughts on the governor of Iowa endorsing Mike DeSantis, while governor of Texas is endorsing Trump? Do you think this will boost DeSantis? And Bobby's telling me that the Jets are losing. Well, the Jets aren't my team, the Giants are, but it is sad to see the Jets losing, although I'm not surprised. Don't like the Buffalo Bills. But I don't watch football anymore. I stopped watching football when they started kneeling. So I really don't know anything about football anymore because they were kneeling and they lost me as a fan. Same basketball, same thing. John, so do I think the governor of Iowa endorsing DeSantis will help DeSantis? No. You know why? And I'll make it simple. Nobody knows who the governor of Iowa is. No one cares. No one knows or cares who's the governor of Iowa. So he could support anyone and no one. He could come out tomorrow and say, I'm supporting Daffy Duck. No one's going to care. No one knows who he is. If you didn't say Governor X, no one would know he was governor. His name stands out to no one. So who he likes, no one cares about. On top of which, DeSantis, governor of Florida, is on a downward trend. Has been for many months now. There is no momentum behind him. He stands out for nothing. He fought with Disney. It was a good fight. He had a good reason to fight. But that's it. But that fight was started long before DeSantis got into it. That's the fight against wokeism, against the indoctrination we see in our schools and in our colleges. That started and had nothing to do with Mark DeSantis. DeSantis is not the reason why we are fighting what we're seeing in the colleges today, where they're supporting Hamas terrorism. The indoctrination, which comes from critical race theory, that comes from intersectionality and feminism, well, that started a long time ago. So that's why it's not going to boost DeSantis, because he hasn't done anything. He hasn't impressed anyone. And Donald Trump, who is impressing people, who has done and continues to do things that grab people's attention, he's not going away. He hasn't, sadly, he lost his sister at 86, which would mean that we would most likely have a full presidency of Donald Trump if he gets elected in 2024. So no one's worried about whether or not he's going to survive. No one's looking for a replacement for him. DeSantis has nothing going for him. As for the Governor Abbott of Texas, notice, I know Governor Abbott's name. Do you know what the governor of Iowa's name is? Most people don't, because it's not important. But Governor Abbott, who's in Texas, and one of the reasons why I know that is because he's been trying to fight the Biden administration and trying to blockade the southern border of the United States, as is his right by the 10th Amendment. He has the right to protect the people of Texas and the United States by blockading the border and make it harder for illegal aliens to criminally enter the United States. There's nothing wrong with that. So Governor Abbott supporting Trump has slightly more impetus because, again, Trump is doing things and Governor Abbott is better known, but that's not the real reason why Trump is leading and DeSantis isn't. At the end of the day, it's about Trump, his personality, and at this point, he has a track record. We can, like I said, if we look at 4 years ago, were you better off 4 years ago under Trump? If I look at the first 3 years of Trump versus the first 3 years of Biden, which one's better? It's always Trump on every single issue and policy. 2020, that's a fluke. They shut down the world. The world was shut down. No politician could have done anything about that. The world got shut down. Everyone would have a bad record in that time period. 3 years versus 3 years. If you look at the first 3 years of Trump versus the first 3 years of Biden, the record shows you'd be better under Trump. You were better under Trump than you were under Obama. You're better under Trump than you are under Biden. And that's what I think is the biggest thing moving him forward. I hope that answers your question, John. It's a little wordy, but I think it's more accurate because of it. John goes on to say, does it help him to skim through Iowa to get to New Hampshire? No. Well, do you mean DeSantis or do you mean Trump? Trump doesn't need to skip through anywhere. He has the name recognition. He's getting the attention. He has a record. People know what they're getting when they talk about Trump. He doesn't need to, he can skip pretty much everything. It's kind of like, should Trump have skipped all of the debates? I would have liked him to be in the debates. I don't really need him to be in debates. I know where Trump stands. He's been explicit. The reason why you have the debate is to consider, where does this candidate stand? Well, I have the track record of Trump, and he's not been silent. We know where he stands on the issues, so I can fairly compare him to everyone who was on that stage, because them, I didn't know where Vivek Ramaswamy stood on anything. I wasn't sure where Nikki Haley stood on everything except foreign policy. So, I didn't know where Tim Scott stood on several issues. I needed to know that. I already know that about Trump. So, Trump can skip anything, but him skipping it isn't skipping it because he's already been there. He's already been making his position known. DeSantis absolutely cannot skip anything. He needs every ounce of attention he can get in the hope that somehow President Trump will not be on the ballot. But as we found out from Colorado this week, Trump will be on the ballot. Colorado made their statement very clear. You cannot remove Donald Trump from the ballot. And if Colorado won't do it, no state will do it. He will be on the ballot everywhere in the United States. Therefore, DeSantis loses. Dow says, Trump is in a better spot as a candidate because he has a technical form of incumbency, much like Grover Cleveland. Well, yeah, he's a former president. Yeah. Governors may endorse DeSantis, but what I can see, voters are responding positively to Vivek stumping through Iowa. Voters will swing for Trump, but Vivek will be the one to watch. Vivek isn't going to win Iowa. Vivek Ramaswamy is not going to win anywhere. But because he's not really running for vice president. And let's be honest, everyone who's been on the stage, everyone who is going through the debates right now, none of them are running for president. They're running for vice president at best, or they're running for first alternate if something happens to Trump, which in this case, because of what was decided in Colorado, is if Trump suddenly were to die overnight, that they would be the most credible next choice. And quite honestly, if there was no Trump out there, I still don't think DeSantis would win, I think Nikki Haley would. Because what we have seen happening in Afghanistan, Ukraine, Sudan, and now finally with Israel and Iran, it has finally started to sink into people's brains that international policy is important. We have to have a president who knows what they're doing internationally. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not asking them to be right 100% of the time, but we need to have someone who understands that America needs to be strong and has to have strong leaders internationally. Otherwise, the world goes to hell in a handbasket. Which means we do better with Nikki Haley than with DeSantis. Yeah, Dow says, well, maybe Vivek will be able to win in 2028. Yeah. Quite honestly, I think a lot of the people on the stage right now, you could see Tim Scott come back in 2028. Nikki Haley will be back in 2028. Carrie Lake, who might be VP, she's going to come back in 2028. Vivek is absolutely coming back in 2028. He would get a cabinet position, so he would have experience in the government, which I think is the biggest thing he's missing right now is experience. He would have had the opportunity to deal with world leaders. You would see Vivek coming back in 2028. It's a very different landscape. And sadly, DeSantis made his move too soon. He put all his eggs into 2024, and now that he failed, he's never going to get the money back. He's never going to get the confidence that he had. He went too soon. He spent everything. It's the reason why Gavin Newsom hasn't run for president yet. He can't get the right opportunity. And same thing with Andrew Cuomo. And one of the reasons why Andrew Cuomo's out is because they were trying to get the right opportunity to run for president. It never came, so they never ran. The problem is, same thing for DeSantis. This wasn't the right time for him. Maybe it would never have come, but it definitely wasn't now. Let me see. So we've been on for about 3 hours and 15 minutes. I've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover today. I hope I gave good answers to John, Dal, to Bell and Bobby. Sorry. Been talking for 3+ hours, so my tongue is gone. I would suggest that people check out all the links for everything in the show that we haven't talked about, as well as everything we did, and all of the sources that we got that information from. I showed you a lot of the different data points, all the sources in the video, but there are even more of them in the description. I hope you'll take a look at that. And I hope people will consider what we were saying about the hostages. Let's start asking people like Bernie Sanders, like Chuck Schumer, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, absolutely, in asking Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, let's start asking them, what are you doing about the hostages? How many hostages are there? How are they? Are they being tortured? Are they being raped? Can we get them home? When are we getting them home? Do not spend money to get them home. This is important. We got to get this right. And we need to start answering the question, these hypersonic missiles. Again, everyone's forgotten about this. No one's paying attention to this in the United States. They do not want you to think about it. This is a massive national security failure. We have to have an answer to the hypersonic missiles. China is making them. North Korea is making them. Iran is making them. None of those countries like us. All of those countries want the United States to be destroyed. That's not a good lineup. We need to answer this. We need to get a solution. Oh, so I apologize. So it's Balin, and I've been saying Bellin, so I'm wrong. I apologize for that. It's Balin, which is a small town in New Mexico. I did not know that. So I stand corrected. Thank you for correcting me. It's Balin, and it means Bethlehem. Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. My Spanish is horrendous. Really is. But now I know it's Balin. Okay, Balin Bobby. Thank you for the correction there. I like to be corrected. I don't mind being corrected, being taught something new, things that I didn't know. And I apologize for the time that I have gotten it wrong. Was not intentional. I did not know that. Hey, I love you guys too. I really do. And I don't mind, people may wonder. I know a lot of progressives may say, well, you don't really want to. Yes, I really want you to ask me questions. I really want you to challenge me. I really want to hear your opinion. How do you know you're right if no one ever questions what you say or what you think? How do you know anything if you never question it? If you just accept, well, he said it, so it must be true. Joe Biden said it, so it must be true. Well, Joe Biden said that he didn't get money from overseas. That was a lie. Joe Biden said that the laptop wasn't real. That was a lie. Joe Biden said that his son didn't throw a gun, an illegal gun, into a garbage bin behind a school. That was a lie. If you're not questioning people, how do you know when they're lying? You don't. And then when you find out they lied to you, what are you doing? So I do enjoy being challenged. I do enjoy having the conversation, both to keep me honest, to make sure that I'm thinking this through, to make sure that you are getting the best opportunity to think about these issues. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. And that's what we've done for the last 3 hours and 3 hours, 22 minutes. And I want to thank you for that, folks. I know some people have been watching football on and off, or they'll watch the show after that. Doesn't matter to me. I thank you. Whether you saw this live or whether you saw this later, I appreciate that you even took the time to watch us, even for a minute or two. I thank you for that. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing your comments live and afterwards. Folks, I want you to have a great Sunday. I look forward every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be here. I look forward to seeing you next week.